Part 17. Why am I crying? I'm crying for my granddaughter. Do you think he's the only one with a granddaughter? I have a granddaughter too. Now that I've lost, my granddaughter has to marry that guy. Gabriel Gold acted so domineeringly earlier. Who would have thought that he'd care so much about his granddaughter? Finn Taylor sneered. That young man is mature and steady, and he is even part of Peregrine Hall. Why don't you like him? Hearing Finn Taylor's words, the old man suddenly wiped away his tears and looked at the other in surprise. Who are you? You seem to be quite familiar with happenings in Chicago. Gabriel Gold had thought that this young man was simply a fighter his younger brother had hired. But now, he was sure that this young man's background wasn't that simple. Third Master Gold glanced at his elder brother. Kimberly, I'll give you some money. Take Finn out for a meal. Third Master Gold handed a wad of cash to his granddaughter. The latter was naturally delighted that she had gotten pocket money and would even be able to spend time with Finn Taylor. She happily took Finn Taylor's hand and skipped out. Only after the pair left did Gabriel Gold speak up. You stopped me earlier. Does this man really have such an impressive background? His name is Finn Taylor, Third Master Gold replied in no hurry at all. I know, you said that earlier. He has another name, Timothy Taylor. Timothy Taylor, where have I heard that before? However, Gabriel Gold couldn't put his finger on it. His father's name is Jacob Taylor. When Third Master Gold said so, his elder brother was so stunned that he was at a loss for words. His mother is Wendy Jensen, his grandpa is Brian Taylor, and his grandma is Frida Cameron. With every name that came out, Gabriel Gold felt his heart leap out of his chest yet again. When his younger brother finally finished his sentence, he collapsed on the ground, not daring to say anything. Half an hour passed before he finally stuttered, he's Master Peregrine. His younger brother nodded. Gabriel Gold slapped himself viciously in the face before kowtowing to the main gate. I'm going back to Chicago, so help me convey my apologies. Tell him that I didn't mean to offend him and that I hope he won't hold it against me. Regret filled Gabriel Gold's heart. Master Peregrine, that's Master Peregrine we're talking about. How could I have gotten someone to fight against Master Peregrine? I must be courting death. At the same time, Kimberly Gold had forcefully dragged Finn Taylor into a tea house. I didn't know that your family has such family feuds too. Finn Taylor sighed, contemplating his life while sipping on his tea. Indeed, every family has its own hardships. The Gold family looks amicable on the surface, but there are such feuds bubbling under the surface. What did you think? We're all the same. It sounds like you've experienced a lot. The Larson family shouldn't be any problem to you. Up until now, Kimberly Gold still had no idea about Finn Taylor's true identity. As such, she simply thought that the latter was thinking about the Larson family's matters. This was why she wondered why the Larson family's problems still plagued him. The latter didn't give her any explanation because he didn't want too many people to know about his family. Although he could guess from Third Master Gold's behavior that the latter already knew about his identity, it didn't matter since the latter was bound to find out about it eventually. However, it was best to keep such gruesome information from the young girl in front of him. After finishing his cup of tea with Kimberly Gold, Finn Taylor headed to the Larson Corporation. It had been a while since he had picked his wife up from work. Yvette Larson happened to be getting off work when he arrived, and she spotted him waiting for her at the entrance with a bouquet of flowers. Why are you here? To pick you up, of course. You could have just picked me up. Why did you get flowers? They're for you. Yvette Larson was both speechless and moved by his romantic gesture. She accepted his flowers before getting into the car. As she sat in the front passenger seat, she rubbed her temples. What's bothering you? That bunch of relatives at home. I'm sure there's more to come. What's going on? Yvette Larson eyed her husband, who seemed like he was about to say something before stopping himself. Could something have happened at home? Have you thought about why they're here in San Francisco? For a vacation? Finn Taylor shook his head. Why would they be here then? The Larson Corporation used to be considered a second-tier company in San Francisco, and they didn't even visit once then. Now that we've become one of the top 3 corporations, they immediately made their way here. Yvette Larson seemed to understand what he was getting at. You mean that they want to work in my company? Finn Taylor nodded. That's impossible. Do they think they're capable enough to work for me? Yvette Larson was clear about just how capable her relatives from the James family were. If she were to bring them into the company, they would probably bring the whole company down with them. I'm sure they won't bring it up, but I can't be so sure about Mom. Linda James, will she really speak up for them? Mom knows exactly how they are. It's no different from bringing leeches into the company by hiring them. Is Mom so unreasonable? Though her husband made sense, Yvette Larson refused to believe that her mom would be so shameless. Number 1 Pacific Heights. Not long after Finn Taylor and Yvette Larson headed out, the old lady said to her daughter, "Linda, we're going to leave soon. It's a long way away, and we might never be back. Take care of yourself." Linda James was stunned. "Mom, what are you saying? You've only been here for a few days, but you're leaving already. Don't you think you're looking down on me? Besides, our house is huge, and we have so many empty rooms. You can stay as long as you want. Why are you in such a hurry to leave?" The old lady sighed. "It's true that we're leeching off you. Look at Finn and Yvette's attitudes toward us, they treat us like strangers." Her daughter quickly comforted her. "Mom, they're still young. Don't hold it against them." "I'm not holding it against them. It's just that we have so many people in our family. It's fine if we stay here for a couple of days, but we can't possibly stay here for the long term. If we had jobs, we might move out. Unfortunately, we don't know anyone in San Francisco, and it'll be difficult to find good jobs." It was painfully obvious what Lucy Williams meant by that. She was clearly trying to tell her daughter that they wanted to remain in San Francisco but didn't have jobs. Moreover, they didn't know anyone in San Francisco who would be able to recommend them for jobs. Didn't their family run a company? Wasn't it only right for them to invite her family members to work in the company? "Mom, why don't I try talking to Yvette to see if she's hiring?" Just as expected, Linda James fell for her mother's trick. "Will that be all right? Yvette doesn't have a very good relationship with us. What if she doesn't want us in her company?" Karen James spoke up just then. Although she sounded worried, she was actually forcing her sister to put in a good word for them. "What about this? I'll tell her that I've already made a decision. I'm sure she won't refuse her mother's request." Just as expected, Linda James fell for yet another trick. Just then, Finn Taylor and Yvette Larson arrived home. The latter was annoyed to even see her relatives around, and she was about to head upstairs with her husband. But no sooner had she taken a step toward the stairs than her mother stopped her. "Why are you trying to escape so quickly? Don't you see that your elders are here? I wanted to go upstairs to avoid my relatives, but my mother has ruined that plan." Yvette Larson was frustrated. "Mom, I was at work for the whole day. Can't I get some rest?" "Of course, you can, but I have something to tell you. You can go take a nap after that." When she heard that, Yvette Larson's heart thumped. She had an ominous feeling about this. Is she going to speak up for those good-for-nothings from the James family and request for jobs on their behalf just like Finn said? "Yvette, wasn't your company hiring just a while ago? Are you guys still hiring? Look, they are your relatives. Why don't you arrange jobs for them if you have any suitable positions in your company?" Finn was right. This is why the James family is here. And Mom is even speaking up for them. "Mom, I'm not the sole decision maker in the company. I have to discuss this with the board of directors." Yvette Larson chose the easy way out, delaying her decision. It would be strange to get a decision even after holding a meeting with the board of directors. Besides, the answer was probably no. As the Larson Corporation's chairman, Yvette Larson had a way of resolving this. "What do you mean, Yvette? Do you mean that you can't make the decision for your relatives to work in your company?" Linda James had already agreed to her family's request, but it now seemed like her daughter was unwilling to cooperate with her. She couldn't help but flare up at that. "Forget it, Linda. I think we had better not put Yvette in the spot. It's true that it isn't good for us to go to your company," Karen James said sourly. It was exactly because of this that Linda James felt embarrassed. She was the eldest in the family but had always been looked down upon. Nobody in the family had ever treated her as the eldest, and that was why she had always been looking for a way to prove her worth to the James family. This seemed like an opportunity for her, yet her daughter was going against her. "Yvette, are you still my daughter? My family wants to work in your company, they're trying to help you. Do you think that they'll slack off? Since you're going to hire employees, why can't you hire your own relatives? Since you look down on the James family, I'll leave this place right now since I'm part of the family too. I'll never step foot in number 1 Pacific Heights ever again." This was just how Linda James was. He never once thought through anything rationally. The only thing she knew to do was throw a tantrum. Yvette Larson had always tried to understand her mother in the past, but not this time. She had thought that giving in to the latter for the past 3 years would yield a positive outcome, yet reality proved to her that her mother was only getting more unreasonable with time. And this was why her husband had been humiliated for the past 3 years. After all those hardships, the couple's relationship was finally improving. There was no way she would allow those leeches from the James family to ruin her family's relationship. "Finn, help Mom pack her things. Since she doesn't want to live here, we'll let her have her way. Linda James could hardly believe her ears. My daughter has just asked me to leave my home. Instantly, she threw yet another tantrum. She crumbled onto the ground. Boo-hoo, my daughter doesn't want me anymore. I'm a useless old woman, boo-hoo. Yvette Larson simply watched as her mother sobbed, not trying to comfort the latter. She waited until the latter grew weary before slowly saying, "Are you done throwing your tantrum? Get up if you are, otherwise, I'll really take your word for it." No matter how unreasonable Linda James was, she knew her limits. Whenever she threw a tantrum, her daughter would always try to satisfy her if it was within reasonable limits. It was useless for her to throw a tantrum if her daughter had no way of satisfying her request. Since that was the case, it was simply better to stop. Otherwise, it'd be embarrassing for everyone. As expected, Linda James grew silent after hearing those words. Yvette Larson took her husband's hand in hers and headed upstairs without sparing the James family a glance. The disdain in her eyes annoyed the family greatly. If not for the fact that they had a favor to ask of Yvette Larson, they would have started a fight a long time ago. Linda James, can't you even resolve such a small matter? I guess you don't care about your family or mother anymore. Lucy Williams had always been biased toward her second daughter and son and had always been mean toward her eldest daughter. Linda James felt utterly miserable. I've already tried my best, but it's really too difficult. It's your fault for offending Yvette last time. How could Mom blame me for it? That's so unfair. Mom, I already said that we shouldn't have come. See, we're being ostracized and looked down on here. They're such a prominent family. Do you think they would care about poor relatives like us? Mom, you've really grown muddle-headed. Although we're relatives, I'm sure they don't treat us as relatives because we have no money. Even though she agreed to help us on the surface, I'm sure they're in cahoots and that it was nothing more than an act. It's the Larson family's company, and the chairman is your granddaughter. However, she simply pushed the decision to the board of directors. Don't you think she's just trying to get rid of us? You were right, it's only right to have the board of directors decide on matters regarding strangers. Aren't we no different from strangers then? Mom, to think that you still think of this as your daughter's house and even brought the one and only chicken that you raised here. However, they're rich, I'm sure they won't even care about that. Forget it, in my opinion, I think we had better forget about this and leave. We better only get in touch with their family once we make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we had better not embarrass ourselves. Henry James's words were like knives stabbing at his eldest sister's heart. Linda James, who had already calmed down, was once again taken in. She turned to her family and promised, "Mom, Henry, Karen, just you wait. I'm sure that I still have the power to make the decision on this. It's just a matter of jobs." With that, she marched up the stairs. Without even knocking or considering her daughter's feelings, she shoved the door open. She then rushed in and stared at her daughter. "How many shares do your dad and I have in the Larson Corporation?" Yvette Larson was stunned. "My mother is still at it. I'm talking to you. How many shares do your dad and I have in total?" Dad is the eldest son of the Larson family, so he has 10% of the shares. As his wife, you have 5%. Together, you guys have 15%. Alright, 15%. Do I have any authority to hire employees then? Yvette Larson was fuming. She didn't want to answer that question. Let me ask you again. With 15%, do I have the authority to hire anyone? Based on the company's rules, anyone with more than 10% of the shares can hire employees for non-managerial roles without seeking permission from the board of directors. Alright then, I'll hire my relative. Shows that. Mom, can you be more rational? Do you think any good will come out of this? Yvette Larson was so incensed that her head hurt. Didn't you say that I have the authority to do so? What, I'll assign them to low-level jobs and not managerial positions. Will that affect the company too? Mom has oversimplified the problem. Does she really not know the personalities of those from the James family? Even if they are to enter at the lowest ranks, they will definitely use their relationship with me to make their presence known in the company. Due to this, other employees naturally won't dare to offend their boss's relatives. As such, there is only one solution to this problem: refusing it. Mom, I don't want to talk to you. Anyway, I'll veto the decision as long as I'm the chairman of the company. Boo-hoo. Linda James started sobbing miserably, even hitting her head against the wall. My life is so hard. I was bullied at home when I was younger, and now that I'm married and have a daughter, I'm still being bullied by my own daughter. Is this my fate? I'm not even asking for much. All I want to do is make a small decision, yet I still can't do even that. Of course, her relatives downstairs weren't going to let this go either. Her siblings shared a meaningful gaze before heading upstairs. Linda, don't put Yvette in the spot. We'll just leave. It's true that we don't have technical skills, it won't be good for the company. That's right, Linda. Karen and I are used to lazing around, so I understand how Yvette feels. I'm sure she's worried about us affecting the company. Yes, we're not asking for high positions. We're asking for jobs as security officers or janitors. But since Yvette doesn't agree to it, let's not push her into a corner. The siblings worked in perfect harmony, and their eldest sister foolishly believed them once again. Yvette, look at how kind your uncle and auntie are being. They don't want to be leaders in the company, they just want to be security officers or janitors. Can't they do even that? Linda James was fuming, and her heart ached as she looked at her daughter. Yvette Larson didn't even know what to say. I know that it's best if I simply keep mum. Once I speak up, the Larson Corporation will be thrown into chaos. However, it seems like my mother won't accept my refusal either. Mom, are they really my uncle and auntie? What kind of relatives would kidnap their own family? Yvette Larson hated the James family to their guts. She hadn't intended on bringing this up, but now that they were going to put on a pitiful act, she wasn't going to back down either. Unfortunately, Linda James didn't buy into that and instead raised her voice. Yvette, who hasn't made a mistake? Do you mean that you've never made a mistake? It's true that your uncle and auntie have let you down, but that's in the past. Let's not talk about it. Linda James was really downright foolish at times. This was her daughter, her biological daughter. She was asking her daughter to forgive those who had hurt her so deeply for the sake of her own dignity. It seemed like the mother-daughter duo was on the brink of a huge fight. Finn Taylor finally stepped in. Mom, let's not talk about it. We'll arrange for them to work at the company when we go back tomorrow. Will that do? Now that Linda James had gotten her way, she pushed her limits. Not just for your uncle and auntie. Make sure you hire everyone in the family. Finn Taylor nodded. All right, Mom, Yvette is really exhausted, so can we rest now? His mother-in-law finally nodded. Fine, go have a rest. I'll go make Yvette's favorite fried chicken. She then left the room with the rest of the family. Yvette Larson immediately shut the door and then turned to her husband. You know that they don't mean well. Why did you agree to it? Yvette Larson wasn't scolding him. She merely felt bad for how he always made compromises for her sake. But compared to Yvette Larson, the James family had been much more vicious to Finn Taylor. Back in Los Angeles, they had looked down on him. However, he had chosen to tolerate it for his wife's sake. The time isn't right, so I'll let them have a break for now. Finn Taylor didn't hate the family any less than his wife did, but he wasn't going to do anything to them for the time being since they hadn't found Diane Taylor. Who knows what the James family will do to the young girl? I have to locate Diane Taylor and make the entire James family kneel before her as an apology. The previous lesson hadn't been enough, so I'm going to make sure they learn their lesson this time. Hearing that, Yvette Larson understood that her spouse had his own plans. It seems like he has already thought everything through. Since that's the case, there is no need for me to continue worrying about it. What I have to do is manage the company well so that my relatives don't affect our operations. As such, she handed the matter over to David Sullivan, instructing him to keep a close eye on them and not to let them access any of the company's confidential documents. The next day, for the very first time, the usually lazy family woke up early and even dolled themselves up in formal attire. One might even have misunderstood that they were about to be appointed into senior positions in the Larson Corporation. In reality, however, Yvette Larson had only assigned them to insignificant roles. Did they really have to dress up like that? Do security officers and janitors dress like this? Do they think that others will see their passion for their jobs through their clothes? I'm sure they're just trying to show off to the other employees that they're different. Yvette, you're awake. How are we supposed to go to the company today? Will the company send a car over to pick us up? Yvette Larson nearly burst out into laughter upon hearing that. Do you really think you're a big shot? Don't you know how you even got your job in the first place? But you're even treating yourselves as the boss. No, you had better think of your own way of getting there. You're not going to send a car here. Aren't we your relatives? Do you mean that the company isn't going to send a car to pick up the chairman's relatives? The James family was truly shameless. We start work at 8:30 sharp. If you're late, the company's rules are that you get a warning for the first time. Your bonus will be docked the second time, and you'll be fired for the third warning. Of course, those rules are for official employees. As for employees still on their probation, you'll be fired on your first time. The James family was stunned. Yvette, what do you mean? Do you mean that we're not official employees but on probation? Yvette Larson nodded seriously. That's right, you're still on probation. Of course, I'll definitely keep my eye on you since you're my relatives. Her relatives' eyes lit up at that. In what way? They gathered around her. She couldn't help but sneer inwardly at their actions. Oh, others are usually on probation for 3 months. But since you're my relatives, 1 month of probation will do. The James family was initially full of expectations, but they immediately rolled their eyes and walked away when they heard that. Although Yvette Larson was calm on the surface, she was bursting with joy inwardly. I've finally gotten my revenge. To be honest, Finn Taylor was rather worried about his wife's safety, so he personally sent her to the office today. Seeing that David Sullivan was around, he then left assured. Before leaving, he instructed the other to take good care of his wife. Otherwise, the latter would have to answer for it. In the entire company, David Sullivan was the only one who knew of Finn Taylor's true identity. As such, he wasn't going to treat the latter simply as his boss. He knew that the company had only been able to reach such heights because of Finn Taylor. Hence, he had better do as the latter instructed and do it to the best of his abilities. As soon as Finn Taylor walked out of the office, he received a call from Horned Serpent. They had finally been able to locate Diane Taylor after a few days' worth of effort. As Finn Taylor headed to Hunter Sullivan's residence, Horned Serpent had already gotten everything ready. The latter pointed at a location on the map and said, "She's here." Finn Taylor took a good look at the map. San Diego. He came to a sudden realization. That's right, Diane Taylor's sister is in San Diego. It's only natural that she returned there to look for her sister after facing such injustice. How could I not have thought of that? But Horned Serpent's next word stunned him. She's not with Lindsay Taylor. She's not with Lindsay Taylor. What's going on? Lindsay Taylor is her only relative in the city. Finn Taylor couldn't help but worry about the young girl now. Horned Serpent then hit a few keys on his keyboard, and a few photos appeared on his computer. I've gotten the surveillance footage in these photos. They are the ones who kidnapped Diane Taylor. The photos showed the young girl being abducted, and the images of those men were as clear as day. Let's go to San Diego. With his command, the 4 guardians headed down to San Diego. At the San Diego bus station, Lindsay Taylor anxiously tapped her feet. She had received a call from Finn Taylor earlier, asking her to pick him up at the bus station because he had something important to tell her. Finn Taylor had chosen not to tell her about her sister because he was afraid that she'd be overwhelmed. However, Lindsay Taylor was no fool and immediately thought that the matter had to do with her sister. As such, she made a call to the latter. Just as she had expected, nobody picked up the call. It seems like something has indeed happened to my sister. Lindsay Taylor was thrown into a frenzy. Just then, 5 men walked out of the bus station, and Lindsay Taylor waved at them. It was Finn Taylor and the 4 guardians. Lindsay Taylor jogged over and blurted out, "Mr. Taylor, how's my sister?" The man sighed. "I wasn't able to keep things under wraps." The young girl still managed to guess that something happened to her sister. Diane is missing. Missing? Why would she suddenly go missing? Lindsay Taylor was confused. My sister has been working for the Taylor family all along. Why did she suddenly go missing? What has happened? Lindsay Taylor stared at her sister's employer. "Mr. Taylor, I'm not trying to disrespect you, but my sister was doing fine in your family. What happened to her? Why did she suddenly go missing? You have to find her." Finn Taylor had no intention of shirking responsibility. Through his observations over the past few days, he was almost certain that the James family was responsible for Diane Taylor's sudden disappearance. Since the girl had only gone missing due to the feud between their 2 families, he had to take responsibility for this matter. "I'm here to save Diane Taylor. Don't worry." With that, he handed his phone over to Lindsay Taylor. "After Diane left our house, she came to San Diego to look for you but was abducted by these men. Take a look at this. Do you recognize any of them?" Lindsay Taylor analyzed the photo closely but shook her head, helpless. "No." "Let's go look for Arthur Jensen then." Arthur Jensen did have some influence in the city, and perhaps he would even recognize some hooligans from the underworld. With Lindsay Taylor leading the way, the group quickly arrived at the Jensen family's residence. Lindsay Taylor was like a fish in water in the Jensen Corporation. In the short span of a few months, she had risen through the ranks and was now the deputy CEO. The speed at which she had been promoted was exceptional. However, Lindsay Taylor knew that it wasn't because of her own abilities but Finn Taylor that she was being treated in this way. "Mr. Taylor, why are you here?" Arthur Jensen was chatting with his daughter Minnie Jensen when the group arrived. He was clearly emotional because of Finn Taylor's sudden appearance. In just a few months, the initially willful Minnie Jensen had completely changed and was much more obedient now. Instead of answering, Finn Taylor turned to Minnie Jensen. Arthur Jensen understood what the other meant at once. "Minnie, go have something to eat with Lindsay and the rest. I have something to discuss with Mr. Taylor." Minnie Jensen was acute and realized that she wasn't welcome, so she gestured for the rest to follow her. Once they left, Finn Taylor took out his phone. "Take a look and see if you recognize them." Arthur Jensen took the phone over and scrutinized the photo closely. Unlike Lindsay Taylor, he had a wide circle of acquaintances. "Mr. Taylor, I recognize all of them. I can arrange for a meeting with them." Arthur Jensen took the initiative to make the offer. This was important. He had answered Finn Taylor's question with the first sentence, but the next sentence meant that he was willing to offer his help. However, his offer seemed rather low-key. If Finn Taylor needed his help, he'd naturally talk about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't. One had to admit that Arthur Jensen was intelligent in that way. "Are you sure that you'll be able to arrange for a meeting?" "Yes." Arthur Jensen was overwhelmed with emotions. He knew what this meant. "Now, I'm officially in a working relationship with Finn Taylor. Of course, how long this relationship lasts will depend on my own abilities." San Diego, in a BA Milked. Suddenly, someone kicked the door to the BA Milked open, and Diane Taylor finally saw a glimmer of light. She couldn't adjust to the sudden brightness at first, but she very quickly adapted to it. Her captors walked in with her lunch. Although they had abducted the young girl, they treated her pretty well. They had brought her a full lunch with a drink to top it off. It didn't even seem like they had kidnapped her. "Hey, I'm getting a little confused. You've locked me up here, but you're feeding me so well. Are you guys good guys or bad guys?" The leader had a can of beer in his hand. He opened it and took a sip from the can as he sat down on the ground without any care. "I won't hide it from you, aren't actually bad people. We were forced into doing this by our circumstances, but we've never taken any lives, nor have we beaten anyone up too badly. Basically, this is how we treat everyone we kidnap. We're just after money. Why would we do anything too drastic? In the past, we released our captives after getting our ransom, and none of them have ever held it against us. In fact, we've even formed friendships with some of them." Diane Taylor picked up a piece of fried chicken. "This tastes pretty good." "Of course, I made it. I'm a good chef." Diane Taylor was taken aback. "Who are they?" "Their leader is even a chef. If you guys are willing to start working legally, I'll introduce you to someone. His experience is even more amazing than yours." The leader took another sip of beer. "Tell me more." "All right, let's see. He's a matrilocal son-in-law and is infamous for being a piece of trash. Everyone knows that he faced humiliation at the hands of his wife's family for 3 years, but he stood up for me against a local tyrant when he saw me being bullied, not caring about his own safety. Everyone said that he's useless, but he bought the most expensive villa in the city as a present for his wife." Quote. Diane Taylor was emotive as she described her employer, drawing the men in. They were enraptured. "Don't you think his experience triumphs all of yours?" Diane Taylor finally finished, and she could tell that the men were stumped. "I never thought that there would be such an impressive man in this world." "Oh right, what's his name? Why don't you tell me your names first?" "My name is Bruce Jones." The leader introduced himself before the rest did the same. "We've told you our names. Why don't you tell us his name now?" "His name is Finn Taylor." Bruce Jones mentally noted down the man's name. "Ms. Diane, we're really sorry. We still have to keep you here for a while longer." Diane Taylor waved them off. "Go ahead, I'm used to it." She even encouraged her captors to leave. As they walked out of the BA Milked, the captors glanced at each other. "To be honest, I want to release this young lady," said Bruce Jones. But his subordinate piped up, "Boss, you should know the rules. If you let her go, it'll be hard for us to remain in this line of work." "I know, but I don't intend to take on any more such commissions after this. Although we've never seriously hurt anyone, people still think of us as bad guys. I can accept that, but I can't let our children bear the burden too. Do you want all your descendants to be known as gangsters?" Bruce Jones's words touched their hearts, and they remained silent for a moment. "All right, I agree. We should let her go." Someone finally supported him. "Me too." A second one. "Me too." One by one, they agreed to their leader's suggestion, eventually coming to a consensus. "But I'm quite curious about that Finn Taylor the young lady was talking about. I'd like to meet him if possible." Just then, Bruce Jones's phone rang. It was Arthur Jensen. "Huh, Arthur Jensen." They were stunned. "We aren't close to that man and are purely acquaintances. Why would he suddenly call us?" Bruce Jones gestured for his subordinates to remain silent before picking up the call. Hello, Mr. Jensen. You want to treat me to a meal? Oh, you need my help. Oh, alright, I'll be there on time. Bruce Jones hung up the call and turned to the others. Arthur Jensen said that he needs my help. He's organizing a banquet and is inviting us there. The group of men looked at each other. They had just promised each other never to do something like that again, yet Arthur Jensen had just called them. If they were to go, they would go against what they had just promised each other earlier. Yet, they would offend Arthur Jensen if they didn't do so. Why don't we do this? Let's release that girl. You guys leave San Diego right away, while I'll meet Arthur Jensen alone. Although Bruce Jones said it casually, they all understood that their boss was going to face Arthur Jensen's wrath alone. Of course, they weren't going to let that happen. No, that won't do. Sam, let her go. We'll do this together. That man immediately nodded and opened the door to the BA milked. Please come out, Ms. Taylor. Diane Taylor was stunned but walked out nonetheless. What's going on? She hadn't been planning on escaping. There was no way she would have succeeded anyway. Boss, why don't you say it? Diane Taylor looked at Bruce Jones. What's with all of you? He sighed. Ms. Taylor, I'm sorry for everything we've done. After hearing your story, we were really touched. I think we shouldn't waste our lives like this, so we've decided not to continue in this line of work. You should leave. Diane Taylor was stumped. You're letting me go. That's right. But will those people let you off? You're such a strange woman. We kidnapped you, and you're not leaving after we let you out. What are you doing? Hurry up and leave. Both Diane Taylor and Bruce Jones were at a loss. Bruce Jones had kidnapped her but was now letting her go. Diane Taylor had been kidnapped, but she was even worried about the other's safety. In the end, the group of men even had to send Diane Taylor off. Only then did they rush down to the Jensen family's residence as though they were about to be executed. The Jensen family's residence. Arthur Jensen and Finn Taylor were seated in a small living room. As for the four guardians, they were guarding the compound. Bruce Jones and his men would have no way of escaping once they entered. There was no way out for them. Very quickly, they spotted a car driving into the compound, and 5 men got out of the car. The 4 guardians nodded but remained in their positions. This way please, Mr. Jones. A man in black walked out of the house. He was Arthur Jensen's bodyguard. He gestured for the group to follow him into the living room. Bruce Jones narrowed his eyes as he glanced at the bodyguard. It's clear that the latter is well trained in martial arts. Perhaps I wouldn't be able to defeat this man if we were to go against each other. But with the combined efforts of the 5 of us, this man will be no match for us. Of course, we aren't here to pick a fight today. With the man leading the way, the group of men arrived in the living room. The bodyguard then quickly retreated. Bruce Jones, you're finally here. The group of men scanned the room. There were only 2 men present, one of which was Arthur Jensen, whom they all knew. However, none of them recognized the young man sitting beside him. We're sorry for arriving so late, Mr. Jensen. As soon as they sat down, dishes of food were served. Come on, let's have a meal while chatting. Arthur Jensen started eating before the rest. On the other hand, Finn Taylor sat there, unmoving. But that was exactly what unnerved Bruce Jones and his subordinates. Arthur Jensen was known to be the richest man in the city, and he exuded an impressive aura. Yet, it paled in comparison to that young man. Of course, they weren't going to initiate any conversation with him. Mr. Jensen, why are you looking for us? Arthur Jensen turned to Finn Taylor, who nodded. Well, I have a distant niece who came to San Diego to look for me, but she suddenly disappeared. I heard that you guys have good connections in San Diego, so I wanted you to help me out. Bruce Jones's heart leapt with joy. Arthur Jensen isn't asking me to hurt anyone. We don't have to go back on our promise. This is her photo. Have you seen her? With that, Arthur Jensen placed the photo on the table and slid it in front of them. When the group of men got a clear view of the girl in the photo, they were aghast. Beads of sweat then formed on their foreheads. Finally, Bruce Jones stood up. Mr. Jensen, we were the ones who kidnapped your niece. Arthur Jensen narrowed his eyes. I hadn't expected the other to admit to it so easily. This is completely unlike what we had expected. Where is she now then? Finn Taylor finally asked. We released her. I don't know where she is now. Bruce Jones and his men were clearly overwhelmed with emotions. We never thought that Diane Taylor would be related to Arthur Jensen. If the latter comes into the picture, things will become much more complicated. You released Diane Taylor. It seemed incredulous to Finn Taylor. Didn't they kidnap Diane? Why would they release her? Yes, Ms. Taylor was very kind. We kidnapped her in a moment of folly, so we released her. Finn Taylor didn't believe a single word. You released her. Do you think I'll believe you? Bruce Jones was on the brink of tears even though he didn't know whom he was talking to. However, him sitting here alone is enough to prove his status. But it is true, let her go. I'm not lying to you. We were already intent on starting life afresh after this time. After Ms. Taylor told us a story, we decided to let her go. She told you a story? I think you're making a story up. Have you ever heard of captives telling their captors stories? Bruce Jones quickly waved his hands. No, I think you're mistaken. We might be kidnappers, but we're different from the rest. We would never harm our captives, and we always treat them to delicious meals and buy them drinks. We've never done anything bad toward them. Finn Taylor hesitated. He had been observing their expressions, and it really didn't seem like they were lying. Could they really be telling the truth? If that's the case, I might be able to take them in. They might be useful. All right then, why don't you tell us the story Diane Taylor told you? Fine, I'll repeat it here. Bruce Jones then retold the story Diane Taylor had told him earlier. Ms. Taylor said that she has a brother named Finn Taylor. He's a martialarts son-in-law, and everyone says that he's a piece of trash. But in reality, he's a hero. While Finn Taylor's heart bloomed with joy, he maintained a poker face. Arthur Jensen felt awkward and wanted to stop them, but Finn Taylor stopped him instead. To be honest, the latter was now certain that the men had indeed released Diane Taylor. They were fortunate to have released the young girl before Finn Taylor got to them. This had saved their lives. Otherwise, the only way out for them was death. Once Bruce Jones finished his story, Finn Taylor asked, "What a nice story. Do you know Finn Taylor?" Bruce Jones shook his head. "No, but I want to get to know him." "You want to get to know him?" "Yes, we've gone through trials and tribulations, but this story gave us a lot of motivation and touched our hearts. If possible, we'd like to follow him. I just wonder if he would accept us with our backgrounds." Finn Taylor chuckled. "Haven't you heard that everyone has their own talents? Why do you put yourself down? I know Finn Taylor, and I can introduce you to him." However, Finn Taylor left his words hanging, and the 5 men were anxious. "Sir, please tell us what you want. As long as we can do it, we'll do our best to fulfill your request." Finn Taylor smiled and said, "Get me a cake. I want one from the bakery along Nile Street. Remember to run there." Run there. The men were dumbfounded. It would take at least an hour to reach Nile Street. A return trip would take 2 hours, almost equivalent to a marathon. Is he not trying to put us in the spot? But they saw Finn Taylor's resolute expression. He's not kidding. Is he being serious? The 5 men glanced at each other before eventually nodding. They then headed out to get the cake that the man had asked for. Only after they left did Arthur Jensen ask anxiously, "Mr. Taylor, how could you let them go just like that? What if they don't return? Then, they simply would have missed out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Finn Taylor's words left him in deep contemplation. Actually, he was no different from Bruce Jones. They were all trying to get on Finn Taylor's good side in hopes of getting an opportunity to improve their lives. The only difference was that he knew Finn Taylor while they didn't. Thinking about what his daughter had done to Lindsay Taylor, he had done the same and apologized to Finn Taylor in this manner too. Just then, the 4 guardians walked in. "Why did you let them go?" None of them had received any instructions to catch them. As such, they rushed into the room, puzzled. What is going on? They aren't truly bad guys. They released Diane Taylor. They released her. Even the 4 guardians were stunned when they heard that. They clearly hadn't expected that. That can't be. Didn't they kidnap her? Why would they let her go? Were they lying to you? Let's call Lindsay Taylor. We'll find out if that was just a lie then. Before Finn Taylor could make the call, Lindsay Taylor had already called him. When they all saw the name of the caller, they were dumbfounded. Did they really release her? Finn Taylor picked up the call and put it on speaker mode. "Mr. Taylor, hold on, let me guess. Is Diane back?" Lindsay Taylor was shocked. "Mr. Taylor, you're amazing. How did you know?" "We're at the Jensen family's residence. Come on over." "All right." They then ended the call. "Let's take a break. It'll probably take those 5 men 2 hours to come back, and it'll probably take the 2 girls even longer." What does he mean? Although Diane has been released, she was held captive for a few days after all. I'm sure she would want to take a nice shower, put on some makeup, and dress up before coming. Don't think that we'll be able to see her right away. Everyone looked at Finn Taylor in awe. He managed to pick up on these details too. I guess there's a reason he's the boss. Oh right, Arthur. You've treated Lindsay Taylor well, so it looks like I should reward you. Finn Taylor suddenly changed the topic. Arthur Jensen stood up immediately. No, it's only right for me to do that. Finn Taylor chuckled. You don't have to beat around the bush with me. I know that you treated Lindsay Taylor well for my sake, so it's only natural for me to reward you. You don't have to say such things. To be honest, Arthur Jensen was pleased to hear Finn Taylor's words. In the business circle, he had gotten used to hearing others trying to flatter him. It was rare to hear such sincere words. Oh right, Mr. Taylor. I have something to ask you. Do you want to ask about my background? Arthur Jensen smiled in embarrassment, his expression giving his intentions away. Why don't you ask them and see if they know anything about it? At once, Arthur Jensen immediately understood that even the four men in front of him didn't completely know Finn Taylor's background. That was the truth. Even though they knew that Finn Taylor was from Chicago's Taylor family and that he was Master Peregrine of Peregrine Hall, they knew nothing else. There was no way he could have acquired so much power and influence with just those two identities. There was much more to it, but even the four guardians were clueless about that. 2 long hours passed, and Arthur Jensen stood up as he glanced at the clock. There was nobody at the door. Mr. Taylor, do you think we made a wrong call? Do you think they left? Finn Taylor frowned. They should be back by now. Did I really make a wrong judgment? But just as everyone was doubting the 5 men, they stumbled into the room, full of injuries on their faces. Still, the cake was in perfect condition. They entered the living room and placed the box on the table. It was hard to conceal the smile on their faces under the injuries. What happened to you? Finn Taylor was stunned. I only sent them to get a cake, but they seem to have gone into battle. Nothing much. It was bound to happen. I just didn't expect it to come so quickly. Be more specific. Oh, we have rules in our industry and broke them by releasing Ms. Taylor. Thus, someone came to stir up trouble for us. Finn Taylor was slightly stumped. I hadn't expected that to happen. He turned to Hunter Sullivan and nodded. The latter immediately understood what Finn Taylor wanted him to resolve the matter. Although it was almost impossible for Bruce Jones and his men to do so, it meant nothing to Finn Taylor. Here's the cake you wanted. Now that we've gotten it, will you give us Mr. Finn Taylor's contact? The door opened just then, and the Taylor sisters walked in. Finn Taylor. Diane Taylor rushed up to the man. Hearing that name, Bruce Jones and his men were confused. Ms. Taylor, is he the man you were talking about? Diane Taylor was slightly taken aback by the gathering of people in the house. She recognized Arthur Jensen, her sister worked in his company. But why is Finn Taylor here too, and why are the men who had kidnapped me here as well? Ms. Taylor, is he the Mr. Taylor you were talking about? Diane Taylor nodded. Thud. With that nod, the 5 men immediately fell on their knees, their minds boggled. But they instantly understood one thing: Finn Taylor had set them a test earlier. To be honest, it had been a strange test. But based on Diane Taylor's description of Finn Taylor, it seemed like something he would do. Get up. Since you passed the test, I'll naturally take you under my wings. Just then, Diane Taylor spotted the injuries on the men's faces. Mr. Jones, how did you get injured? Diane, give each of them a toast. Although she didn't understand why her employer instructed her to do that, she complied nonetheless. She poured herself a full cup of wine and downed it. This frightened the 5 men. What is Finn Taylor up to? Now that you've accepted this toast from Diane, you'll be in charge of her safety from now on. I'll hold all of you accountable if anything happens to her. Bruce Jones nodded, not daring to say anything. Diane, I didn't make you drink this glass of wine to put you in the spot. Do you know how they got these injuries? The young girl shook her head. They went against the industry rules by letting you go, so someone is after them now. Diane Taylor cupped her mouth in shock. She had never thought that things would get so serious. Mr. Taylor, there's no need to tell her such things. Finn Taylor stopped there. Now, it's all up to the 2 parties whether they'll be able to put the past behind them. Finn Taylor took a liking to Diane Taylor because she was hardworking and had a sweet mouth. He was going to bring her with him when he returned. And now that Bruce Jones and his men were his subordinates, it was inevitable for them to bump into each other. Although the men hadn't done anything to Diane Taylor and had even let her go, they had still kidnapped her after all. Seeing that Diane Taylor had noticed him first upon entering the room and not Bruce Jones, he felt that the young girl probably still held something against the man. That was why he had made such an arrangement. All right, let's get back on track. Diane, why did you leave San Francisco? Diane Taylor then told him all about what the James family had done. Finn Taylor turned to Bruce Jones. If I'm not wrong, a woman named Corinne James must have looked for you. The latter nodded. He's right. All right, follow me back to San Francisco. It's time to deal with some people. After leaving Lindsay Taylor with some instructions, Finn Taylor left with Diane Taylor. The sisters hugged each other before leaving, both in tears. It had been a while since they last met, and neither of them had expected to meet again under such circumstances. San Francisco. The Larson Corporation. Yvette Larson was in her office when an employee came in to inform her that the James family had taken away the items on their desk again. This was the 7th time today. Every time, Yvette Larson's reply was the same: "All right, I'll pay you for it. Go back to work." It felt as though she was making light of the situation, and it obviously annoyed her employees. No sooner had that employee left than the door was pushed open once again. Without even lifting up her head, Yvette Larson simply said, "Get out. Didn't I tell you to just report the costs to me? I'll reimburse you for it, so don't bother me anymore." Finn Taylor stood at the door, confused. It's me. He had traveled a long way back from San Diego, only to receive such treatment. Feeling that something was amiss, Yvette Larson finally raised her head to see that it was her husband at the door. He walked up, shutting the door behind him. "What's going on? Who else can it be but the James family? We never should have let them into the company. Now, they've started bullying others. They've taken everything they possibly can from other people's desks, from pens to tissues, and even an apple. I've already had a few employees telling me about this today. What can I possibly do? I just told them that the company would reimburse them for those things, but I'm sure that's not what they're after. It is injustice that they're feeling." Finn Taylor glanced out of the door. These people are really shameless. I didn't think they would do such things on their first day here, but I must have underestimated them. I'll make sure they learn their lesson tonight. Have you found Diane? Finn Taylor nodded. Yvette Larson was delighted. Of course, the James family was continuing with their antics. All of a sudden, a shrill scream broke the silence. "Ah, which shameless fool stole my money? If you don't have money, you could have told me. I would have donated some to you. Don't you think you're no different from a thief by taking all of my money from my drawer?" The couple obviously heard the scream too and realized that something had happened. They rushed out to take a look. By then, many employees had gathered around that lady, but they made way for the couple. As they arrived in front of the desk, they spotted a young lady burying her head in her hands, sobbing. Yvette Larson asked gently, "What's going on?" "Someone stole Sally's money." Taking tissue paper, snacks, or pens were trivial matters, but stealing money was a whole different matter. "Shut the doors." Immediately, Yvette Larson instructed the security officers to lock the doors. She then glanced around the office. "Who stole the money? Own up now." There was pin-drop silence, and nobody admitted to being the thief. "I'm going to count to 10. If nobody owns up to it, I'm going to call the police. We have surveillance cameras anyway." She pointed at the ceiling. There were no blind spots in the office. 1, 2, 3. Every word seemed like a hammer coming down, but nobody felt anything. Only the person who had done it felt as though their heart was about to burst. 4, 5, 6. Everyone looked around, trying to spot if anyone was acting furtively. Just then, Finn Taylor spotted Henry James and Karen James inching backward as though they were about to run. He immediately grabbed their arms. "Finn Taylor, what are you trying to do?" Frantic, the pair struggled against him. "Don't tell me that you're feeling guilty. Why are you trying to escape?" "Guilty? Since when were we feeling guilty?" "Finn Taylor, you had better not accuse us without any evidence." Finn Taylor chuckled. "Don't try to leave if you're not guilty then. Whoever leaves is the thief." After that, he shoved the pair to the ground. Not a single person took pity on them. In fact, they even cheered. Although it was their first day at work, they ruined the atmosphere in the office. Now, there was even a case of stolen money. It was only natural that nobody thought well of them. 7, 8. As the numbers inched closer to 10, everyone held their breaths. Still, nobody had stepped forward. Will Yvette Larson really call the police if nobody owns up to it? 9. The atmosphere grew more tense. Beads of sweat formed on the James family's foreheads. "Yvette, let's forget about it. It wasn't much anyway." Unexpectedly, Sally stood up to persuade her boss to simply let the matter go. That encouraged the James family. Karen Jameswo had tried to escape early, ratted on, "Yvette, I'm not trying to say anything, but this isn't a huge matter either. Maybe someone didn't have enough coins to take the bus home and took some from Sally. I'm sure they intended on returning it, but they probably won't dare to do so now that you've blown it up. It's just a few dollars, there's no need to make such a huge fuss. We're all colleagues, so what's the point in blowing this up? Henry James piped up too. That's right, Yvette, you're still young and naive. If I were in your place, I wouldn't deal with this so strictly. Yvette, why don't you consider leaving me in charge of the company? I promise I'll do a good job. There was probably nobody more shameless than Henry James. Yvette Larson turned to Sally. All right then, let's get back to work. Hearing that, the James siblings shared a meaningful glance, understanding that they had nearly been caught. Once the crowd dispersed, Finn Taylor and Yvette Larson headed to the security office to get a copy of the surveillance footage. After a long day at work, everyone had left for the day. Finn Taylor had tolerated the James family and hadn't done anything to them just so that he could deal with them in front of his mother-in-law at home. Otherwise, he'd never be able to get rid of them completely. As they returned home, Linda James was already at the door waiting for them. To tell the truth, Finn Taylor pitied her. She was such a brainless woman, but it was true that she didn't have any place in the James family and had married a useless husband. She wanted to be a strong and independent woman, but circumstances didn't allow for that. That was why she had placed all her hope on her daughter. But such was fate, her daughter had married a piece of trash, too. This was why she had vented all her anger on him. Actually, Linda James was quite a pitiful woman too. She wanted her family to get along with the Larson family as well. Now, she waited at the door expectantly. Unfortunately, her family was truly useless, and her hopes fell through. Mom, we're back, the couple greeted her. Linda James was emotional. Hey, you're back. That's good, I've already prepared dinner. One could count with just one hand how many times Linda James had stepped into the kitchen to prepare a meal over the past 3 years. In fact, this was probably the first time she had taken the initiative to whip up a meal for the family. Linda James awaited their good news, but things rarely went to plan. Once everyone entered the house, Finn Taylor glanced at his wife, who nodded in agreement. Come have a seat. Linda James was slightly confused as she looked at her son-in-law. Is there something so important that we can't discuss after dinner? I think we had better get this out of the way. I don't think I'll be able to stomach dinner otherwise. Yvette Larson glared at her mom before the latter could say more. Come and have a seat. Mom, you come over too. Linda James was slightly afraid of her daughter. After all, the latter held the final say as to whether her family could remain in the company. Although reluctant, the James family eventually took their seats on the sofa. When everyone was seated, Finn Taylor finally spoke up. I didn't want to expose this in the company, but now that we're home, it's best to clear the air about what happened in the office today. The surveillance footage told us everything, and I brought it back with me today. Finn Taylor retrieved a hard disk from his bag. By now, the James family was slightly flustered. Henry James was the first one to speak up. Finn Taylor, what do you mean by this? Didn't you say that you weren't going to pursue the matter anymore? Finn Taylor chuckled. Don't worry, since Sally doesn't want to pursue the matter, I won't. However, I have to find out what happened. I was afraid that I would be wrong if I were to view it alone, so I decided to invite all of you to view it with me. What? You guys look terrified. Do you know something that I don't? Henry James's eyes shied away from Finn Taylor's gaze. What could I possibly know? Don't put words into my mouth. Seeing Henry James's behavior, Finn Taylor knew he had caught the culprit. However, he was in no hurry. Once the video was shown, the truth would be known to all. Finn Taylor had obtained the surveillance footage starting an hour before Sally screamed. It was highly likely that her money had been stolen in the previous hour. It would be hard to find anything out within that hour, so he started playing all 4 videos at the same time. Nothing seemed out of the blue, and that naturally pleased the James family. They glanced at Finn Taylor as though they were challenging him. See, you were making a mountain out of a molehill. Of course, Finn Taylor was in no hurry either. They were bound to be exposed. As the video played on, something finally happened. Sally had left her desk. This was a key turning point. If someone had stolen her money, it probably would have taken place after this. As expected, Henry James inched toward Sally's desk, even sitting in her seat. He then opened the drawer and took her money out. At that moment, he had only placed the money on the table, not in his pockets. But by then, Henry James was furious. What's there to see? Kill me if you want. He stood up, wanting to leave. But Finn Taylor naturally wasn't going to let that happen, and he pinned the man on the ground. Do you really think that I won't dare to do anything to you? On the television, the video was running. By this time, Henry James had already placed the money in his pocket. Just then, Karen James walked over. Wow, you're even stealing money now. Be quiet. Henry James then split the loot with his sister before they both left the scene. Finn Taylor glanced at Karen James. I knew that she had to be involved in this somehow since both of them tried to escape this afternoon. Finn Taylor, let go of me. I won't run away. Henry James felt miserable being pinned down on the ground, and he started begging for mercy. You'll discover the inception of this content at N0V at Elbin. After giving the man a vicious kick, Finn Taylor loosened his grip. Escape? You must be kidding. We're on Pacific Heights. It would be strange if you were able to run away. How much did you steal? Henry James's eyes shifted as he said, $30. I'll chop off your fingers if you don't tell the truth. $300. Finn Taylor glared at the other. Fine, $700. That's the truth. All right, the company's rules are that you have to pay tenfold of what you stole. Hand $7,000 over. $7,000. Henry James's face drained of all color. I don't even have that much money. It's all right if you don't have 7,000. You can pay with your fingers. With that, Finn Taylor picked up a fruit knife and slammed Henry James's hand onto the table. He was about to chop the other's fingers off with the knife. Wait a minute, I do have 7,000. My life is more important than money. I have some secret savings. Henry James eventually transferred Finn Taylor $7,000, throwing the family into chaos. But this had nothing to do with Finn Taylor. Finn, we've already paid you. Let's not pursue the matter anymore. Henry James thought that his nephew-in-law wouldn't harp on the matter anymore now that he had already paid the latter. We can close this case, but there's something else that we have to take into account. Another thing. What's he talking about? Is he talking about the tissues and other things that I stole? Is Finn Taylor even going to pursue such a trivial matter? Come in. Nobody knew who Finn Taylor was talking to. Right then, the door opened, and someone walked in. Seeing that person, the James family's faces were filled with terror. The one who walked in was none other than Diane Taylor. Diane Taylor, you, Corinne James immediately jumped up from her seat, visibly shocked. What? You look quite frightened to see me. Seeing Corinne James, Diane Taylor was no longer afraid. You must be quite terrified to see me. Just then, another man walked in, Bruce Jones. Corinne James could no longer remain calm. Why you? She stuttered for a long time but couldn't complete her sentence. It was painfully obvious how shaken she was. Corinne James hadn't been that terrified when facing Diane Taylor. After all, it was her word against the others. She would simply deny it, and with Linda James helping her, nobody would be able to put the blame on her. But things were different now that Bruce Jones had appeared. She had lost all rationality because of hate and had hired someone to kidnap the young girl in hopes of killing her. However, these were two different things. Are you very surprised to see me, Ms. James? Corinne James was the only one who knew what she had done. Nobody else in her family had any idea about it, and that was why they were confused by Corinne James's behavior. I don't know you. Why should I be shocked? Corinne James had no other choice but to pretend to be ignorant. I'll deny it as long as you're unable to take out any evidence against me. Bruce Jones fumed as he observed Corinne James. But just as he was about to speak up, Finn Taylor waved him off. There's no hurry. Why don't we take a look at the surveillance cameras from our house? Surveillance cameras? The James family wasn't the only one that was shocked, even Linda James was. Mom, this is number 1 Pacific Heights. Do you really think we wouldn't have any cameras? Finn Taylor picked up a teddy bear by the television and shook it gently. A remote control then fell into his hands. Everyone's faces fell. Finn Taylor connected the remote control to the television. He then selected the footage from the day he had gotten drunk. From the footage, it was clear that Corinne James was the one who had started the fight. It also showed how Diane Taylor had tried to protect herself. Following that, the James family including Linda James had ganged up against Diane Taylor, smashed her phone, and even chased her out of the house. Finn Taylor stopped the video and turned to the James family. It seems like I was too kind and didn't nip the problem in the bud the last time. Finn Taylor was referring to Lucy Williams's birthday when Linda James had brought the whole family to Los Angeles. It had ended with Corinne James kidnapping Yvette Larson. At that time, Finn Taylor had already warned the James family but had chosen to leave them a way out on his mother-in-law's account. However, they hadn't appreciated his kindness, and they were now acting as though nothing had happened. Bruce Jones, why don't you tell everyone about your encounter with Ms. Corinne James? All right, the man took a step forward and started, Ms. Corinne James paid me $5,000 and instructed me to kidnap Ms. Diane Taylor. She said it didn't matter what I did to Ms. Taylor, but I couldn't let her go before she gave me instructions. Kidnap Diane Taylor. The James family was obviously shocked. Did Karine not learn her lesson from kidnapping her cousin the previous time? Did she already forget what Finn Taylor did to her that time? Everyone turned their eyes to Karine James, yet the latter remained calm and collected. She shrugged and denied everything. Finn Taylor, where did you find this actor from? I don't know him. Do you have any evidence apart from his statement? Of course, Finn Taylor had already expected her denial. Since he had chosen to bring this to light, he wouldn't let anything fall through. You transferred $5,000 to Bruce Jones. How do you explain this? Karine James smiled. There's nothing to explain. My account was hacked a few days ago. In fact, he should return me my money. Nobody could get more shameless than Karine Jamesh didn't even hesitate before giving that explanation. Alright, let's take it that your account was hacked. I'm sure that you don't know the rules people like Bruce Jones have. Finn Taylor deliberately paused for a moment. For some unknown reason, Karine James's heart pounded, and she had an ominous feeling about this. Bruce, play the recording. Recording. Karine James was stumped. Bruce Jones recorded our conversation. You don't have to look at me like that, Ms. James. In our line of work, we're always scared of people going back on their word, so we always keep evidence when we work. With that, Bruce Jones played the recording. Bruce Jones, you've got the wrong number. A friend gave me your number. You've got the wrong number. 5,000. You've got the wrong number. San Diego bus station, 5,000. You've got the wrong number. I've sent you the photo. Catch her and do whatever you want to her, don't release her before I tell you to. I'll give you another 3,000 after everything is completed. Which friend? Friends in heaven. Deal. Deal. Finn Taylor wanted to see how Karine James would deny everything in the face of solid evidence. Everyone's eyes turned toward the latter. Her forehead was dripping with sweat, and her lips were trembling. She couldn't even force a word out. Eventually, she gave up and shut her eyes. To everyone else, it seemed like she had admitted to it. Karine James, you made a foolish mistake. Lucy Williams was incensed. I gave no care to my own dignity to beg for the family's jobs in the Larson Corporation, yet Karine has ruined everything. A life for a life, you have to pay for what you owe. Why don't you tell us how your family intends to pay us for this? Not a single person in the James family dared to speak up. Why don't we do as Karine James says and kidnap all of you? Diane will have full say over when you guys are released, and we'll let your captors do whatever they want to you. What do you think about that? The James family was scared stiff. They knew just how vicious Bruce Jones and his gang were. Who knew what they would face and how they would die at the hands of those men? Of course, Karine James was the most terrified amongst them since she had once experienced that life in Los Angeles. At that time, Finn Taylor had handed her to people like that too. That had been the darkest period of her life. Even now, she would have nightmares from time to time. It was a terrifying and painful experience that would stay with her for the rest of her life. No, I'm not going with them. Karine James vehemently objected to it as though they were her enemies. The arrogant attitude they had earlier was gone in an instant. Linda, why don't you help us out? Do you really want your family to die? Lucy Williams finally spoke up. Instead of begging grandson-in-law, she tried her luck with her eldest daughter. Even Linda James understood that her family had indeed gone too far this time and that they would never learn their lesson unless her son-in-law did something this time. But looking at her mother's desperate gaze and hearing her siblings' groans, Linda James eventually asked, Finn Taylor, as your mother-in-law, do you think you can let them off this once for me? Shut up, Mom. Yvette Larson felt as though she was going to explode even before her husband said a word. Every single time, my mom will try to speak up for the James family without fail. If not for my mom backing them up, there is no way they would dare to cause havoc. Yvette, why are you raising your voice at me? They're your relatives too, they are your uncle and auntie. Can you really bear to let them suffer? Yvette Larson sneered. Uncle, auntie, which uncle or auntie would steal money in their niece's company, and who else would hire someone to kidnap their own cousin? Yvette Larson was speaking the truth, giving her mother no chance of rebutting her. Yet, the latter couldn't simply abandon her relatives. As such, she did what she did best, throw a tantrum. I don't care. I don't care what you think. They're my relatives. If they die, I'll die too. Slap. Finn Taylor slammed the fruit knife in front of Linda James. Bruce Jones, take the James family down and beat them to death. Mom, end your life now and go along with your family. Seeing the fruit knife in front of her, Linda James's face drained of all color, and she didn't dare to utter another word. Are you still going to keep up with that, Mom? You'll discover the inception of this content at N0V at Elbin. Naturally, Linda James was too terrified to do anything. She sat in the corner without saying a word. Mom, I'll spare their lives on your account, but they still have to take responsibility for what they've done. Bruce Jones, beat them up so that they'll be bedridden for at least half a year. Then, throw them back to Los Angeles. Bruce Jones nodded. With that, the James family was dragged away. Looking around the empty house, Linda James felt emotion swirling within her. However, she didn't dare to make a sound since she now understood one thing. She had treated her son-in-law like a piece of trash in the past. As long as he didn't do as she said, she would scold him or even beat him up. But after that incident with Frida Cameron, she had backed down a little. But now that some time had passed, she seemed to have forgotten about that incident and was even trying to boss Finn Taylor around again. Finn Taylor had been treating them kindly in the recent months, not because he had suddenly become magnanimous but because he didn't want to show his murderous aura. However, that didn't mean that he would allow himself to be bullied. This was why Linda James had gradually gotten bolder. Just thinking about it now stirred up some regret in her heart. Diane Taylor had suffered injustice, and besides, she had already been fired. If they wanted to hire her again, someone had to take the blame. Eventually, the family decided that Linda James would be the best person to do it. Of course, she refused. Why should I? This is my house, and I'm her employer. Why should I apologize to her? Yvette Larson glanced at her mom. That's fine, you'll be in charge of all the household chores from now on then. As expected, she knew her mother best. That touched a sore spot, and the latter's face fell. Linda James made a last attempt at convincing them. But why am I the only one doing it? Shouldn't you guys do some household chores too? Mom, this is number 1 Pacific Heights. Finn paid for this place, so he shouldn't have to do the household chores after spending so much money. Besides, I'm the one paying for the thousands of dollars worth of management fees on this house. I shouldn't need to do any chores either. Linda James turned to her husband, her last hope. What about him? Why doesn't your dad need to do any chores? Francis Larson replied to her indifferently, the day we got married, you promised that I would never need to do a single household chore anymore. She had indeed said so. At that time, the James family was only an insignificant family in Los Angeles, while the Larson family was a second-tier family in San Francisco. She thought that she would live happily ever after by marrying the Larson family's eldest son, and that was why she made that promise. Who would have thought that this day would come? Linda James stuttered. Left with no choice, she eventually said, all right. I'll go and beg her to return, okay. Linda James was fuming, but there was nothing she could do. As such, she headed out to buy some fruits and milk before visiting Diane Taylor. Finn Taylor had arranged for the latter to stay in a hotel not far from Pacific Heights. Linda James knocked on the room door. The moment the door opened, Linda James spotted the young girl's reddened eyes and tear streaks on her face. What's wrong, Diane? Hasn't everything been resolved? Finn has already lectured me for a long time at home. What if he thinks that I bullied you? Linda James felt her head throb. If Finn Taylor were to witness this sight, he would definitely think that I bullied the young girl. Auntie Linda, although we may have had misunderstandings, I know that you're a good person. You've never scolded me or hit me. I'm only crying because of my own matters. Oh right, I have something to tell you. I'm going back to my hometown. I can't stay in San Francisco anymore. Diane Taylor then took $30 out. Mr. Taylor and Ms. Larson have been very good to me. I won't be able to attend their baby's birthday celebration, nor will I be able to come back to San Francisco again. Please take this money to them as a gift in advance. Linda James was stumped. What does she mean by this? I'm here to bring you back with me, but you're leaving San Francisco. Finn and Yvette will definitely think that I bullied you. Linda James was never going to take the blame for that. If she did it, she would find a way to shirk all responsibility. If all else failed, she would eventually own up to it. However, there was no way she would take responsibility for it when she had never done anything. Hold on. Linda James whipped out her phone and made a call to her daughter. Yvette, come to the hotel with Finn. Diane says that she's leaving San Francisco. I didn't do anything, she simply said that the moment I arrived. Yvette Larson was comforting her employees after the mess the James family had created the previous day. They had faced injustice, and as a boss as well as a relative of the James family, it was only right for Yvette Larson to comfort them. But right at that moment, she received news that Diane Taylor was about to leave the city. Her first thought was that her mother said something wrong while apologizing, but the latter said that it had nothing to do with her. That was strange. Thankfully, her husband was by her side. Something has happened to Diane. Let's go have a look. Finn Taylor didn't ask anything more and only continued with his questions once they were in the car. What happened? Mom called and said that Diane is leaving San Francisco. Did Mom do anything? Finn Taylor wasn't blaming her but trying to understand the situation. That can't be. If she did it, she wouldn't have called. I don't think so. From Mom's tone, it seems like Diane has run into some trouble and wants to leave. No matter how much Finn Taylor thought about it, he couldn't think of what could have happened. Very quickly, the couple arrived at the hotel. They then got out of the car and headed upstairs. Because the room door was left ajar, the couple spotted Linda James trying to persuade Diane Taylor. From the tears on the latter's face, they could tell that she'd been crying. But seeing that the two women were talking so peacefully, it seemed like Linda James was indeed not the culprit. You'll discover the inception of this content at N0V at Elbin. You guys are finally here. Hurry up and help me out, I didn't do anything. Diane Taylor wiped her tears away. Mr. Taylor, Ms. Larson, you're here. It really has nothing to do with Auntie Linda. Finn Taylor looked at the girl, asking, what happened? Why are you crying? Nothing. Oh right, Mr. Taylor, Ms. Larson, I'm leaving San Francisco. I was intending on staying until I got to attend your baby's birthday celebrations, but I don't think I'll have the chance for that now. Please accept this gift from me. With that, Diane Taylor took out $30. Yvette Larson blushed at the mention of a baby, but she very quickly returned to normal. Diane, we won't take your money. Why don't you tell us what happened? It's obvious that you don't think of us as your family since you're not telling us anything. We can't take your money then. Finn Taylor was clearly trying to force her to spill the beans. Mr. Taylor, I can't tell you anything. You won't be able to do anything about it anyway. The man chuckled. How do you know that I won't be able to do anything if you don't tell me anything? It's too complicated. You don't have to get involved because of someone like me. What could possibly have happened? Finn Taylor got more curious by the moment. Diane, do you think this is a discussion? Do you think you'll be able to leave San Francisco without my help? Don't even think of leaving if you don't make yourself clear today. Left with no other choice, Diane Taylor said, Mr. Taylor, you don't have to bother yourself with this. I've already resigned, so I have nothing to do with your family anymore. Resigned? I was the one who signed your employment contract. Without my permission, you can't leave. Who do you think I am? You had better make yourself clear. By now, Diane Taylor understood that there was no way she was going to leave the city if she didn't tell him what had happened. Mr. Taylor, do you remember me telling you that my mother raised me alone? She was a widow, and there weren't many widows in our village. Recently, quite a few men arrived in our village. Those men once spotted my mom by the river drawing water, and they kindly offered their assistance. Just because of that, rumors about my mom have spread. I don't want to stay here, I want to be with my mom. Nobody will dare to bully her with me there. Finn Taylor had thought that something major had happened because Diane Taylor had been crying and stuttering. Who would have known that it would be such a trivial matter? Pack your things, I'll go back with you. Diane Taylor hadn't expected her employer to care about this matter. No, you can't interfere in this matter. I understand your good intentions, Mr. Taylor, but you don't understand those people. You'll only get implicated if you go. They're completely unreasonable, and it's also complicated there. You might be in danger if you were to go with me. Diane Taylor knew nothing about what her employer had done in the past, she simply thought of him as a rich man. As such, she objected to the latter going to the village with her. Danger. Diane, oh Diane, do you know what kind of person your brother is? I'll let you see then. Oh right, where's your village? Seeing that Finn Taylor was so insistent, Diane Taylor knew that she had no way of convincing him otherwise. It seems like I have no choice but to try to protect him once we return. I live in Greenwich. Greenwich. Finn Taylor chuckled. Greenwich is just north of New York. In that case, I'll have to bring Hunter Sullivan along. All right, pack your things. I'll get us a chauffeur. He then made a call to Hunter Sullivan to pick them up. Hearing that they were headed for Greenwich, the latter quickly made a call. Because of the proximity of Greenwich to New York, many businessmen in Greenwich had tried to get on good terms with him. Because they were all businessmen who simply wanted to make money, he took them on, and they became his men. Now, they would definitely come in handy. Very quickly, Hunter Sullivan arrived at the hotel. Finn Taylor arrived downstairs, and they set off for Greenwich. Greenwich, Riverside, it was just like any other ordinary village. Gloria Kennedy headed out to the river to draw water as usual, but as soon as she stepped out of her house, she realized that someone had splashed filthy water on her doorstep. She fumed. What have I done wrong? My husband is dead, and I worked hard to raise my daughters. I've never done anything wrong. Why are they trying to drive me into a corner? I haven't even offended them. Still, she had no idea who had splashed the water on her doorstep. She headed out to draw water to clean the doorstep, but a couple of middle-aged ladies walked over just then. Oh, Gloria, why are you carrying your own bucket of water? Didn't I see some men helping you just a few days ago? That woman's name was Hilda Aker. Hilda, you better watch what you say. Those men are just workers around here. They saw me struggling with the bucket and simply offered their help. Don't spout nonsense. Tisk tisk, are you the only one who struggles with carrying a bucket? Why don't I see them helping me? Hilda, you're different. You have a husband, while she's a widow. Widows. Ha ha ha. The three women burst out into laughter. Gloria Kennedy was already used to this, so she didn't take it to heart. You'll discover the inception of this content at N0V at Elbin. Oh, right, Gloria, I'm sure you don't know about something. Elder Taylor already knows about you seducing the outsiders, so he wants you to beg for forgiveness. Gloria Kennedy stopped in her tracks. Beg for forgiveness? Why, I didn't seduce anyone. Oh, you don't dare to admit to what you've done. The whole village saw you seducing those men. Are you still going to deny it? I said that I didn't do it. Don't raise your voice at me. Go raise your voice at Elder Taylor if you dare. Gloria Kennedy could no longer hold her tears back. It had been more than 2 decades since she had married into the Taylor family. After the death of her husband, many around her had advised her to get remarried, but she had refused. She wanted to be buried with her husband. But now, the family head didn't even believe her and wanted her to beg for forgiveness. Tisk, you must be guilty. Look, you're already crying. We wouldn't be able to put on such a show. Hilda Aker continued making a dig at the other woman. Just then, they heard a commotion. They turned around to see the young men of the village gathered around an elder, walking toward them. This elder was the head of the Taylor family, Garrett Taylor. Elder Taylor is here. Good days are ahead, Gloria. You don't have to be a widow anymore. The women didn't have any grudge against each other and hardly even said more than a word to each other. Yet, it delighted the women to see Gloria Kennedy down. Who knew what was up in their minds? Very quickly, the group of men arrived in front of Gloria Kennedy's house. Elder Taylor. Gloria Kennedy addressed the man respectfully. All right, you haven't forgotten about your manners, but why did you do such a shameful thing? Garrett Taylor shook his head in disappointment. I didn't do it, Elder Taylor. All right, you don't have to say anything. I know what you've done. What's going on with you and those foreign boys? Gloria, you have to understand that you're part of the Taylor family. How could you do such a shameless thing? She quickly shook her head, denying everything. Elder Taylor, you're mistaken. Those men only helped me because I was struggling. Hilda Aker cut in. Nonsense. I clearly saw that man touching your hand. Yes, I saw you guys hugging each other. That's right, the three of us were there and saw you guys acting so intimately. I felt secondhand embarrassment just looking at you. Gloria Kennedy was stunned. How shameless can they get? Why are you ganging up and cooking up stories about me? What are you saying, Hilda? They're spouting nonsense and maligning me. Garrett Taylor chuckled. Maligning you? Do you mean that all three of them are lying? Yes, that's right, fine. He looked around and asked, who else saw what happened? Gloria Kennedy clenched her fists nervously. Just then, someone spoke up. I saw it too. This person was named Hudson Taylor, Hilda Aker's husband. Stop maligning others. You don't even go to the river to draw water. What could you have seen? Hudson Taylor immediately retorted, who says? I just happened to go down to the river the other day. I wasn't the only one who witnessed that. Many others saw it too. Yes, I saw it. Another man from the Taylor family stood forward. Me too. 2, then 3, then 4. It didn't take long for more than a dozen men to step forward to accuse Gloria Kennedy of doing so. Gloria, do you have anything to say now? Garrett Taylor was fuming as he chided the woman. But there was only a smile on her face. Ha 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 ha. Don't you think this is funny, Elder Taylor? When have you ever seen these men go down to the river? Why did they happen to be there on that very day? Are you still trying to say that they're accusing you of something you didn't do? Gloria Kennedy, you're really something. Do you think the whole village would come together to malign you? This was exactly what Gloria Kennedy didn't understand. I've done nothing against them, so why are they ganging up against me? However, she wasn't going to admit to something she hadn't done. Elder Taylor, why are you trying to reason with this woman? You had better save your breath. I don't think our ancestors would care for her apology either. Let's just throw her into the pigsty, Hilda Aker suggested. Gloria Kennedy could hardly believe her ears. Elder Taylor, are you really going to throw me into the pigsty? I've done nothing wrong, yet these people are treating me in this manner. Elder Taylor eventually nodded after a moment of contemplation. As soon as they got his approval, the young men grabbed hold of Gloria Kennedy, ready to throw her into the pigsty. But just then, a few people rushed over and made a huge fuss. Hold on. They look like those village outsiders. Oh, look, her boyfriend is here. Sir, you're mistaken. We have nothing to do with Madam Kennedy. Those men tried to speak up for Gloria Kennedy, but this made the villagers even more suspicious. Why else would they be in such a hurry? Something has to be going on between them. My father may be old, but he isn't senile. We don't need an outsider to interfere in our family's affairs. Besides, you're the ones who ruined our family. It's good enough that we're not throwing you into the pigsty as well. How dare you cut in? Garrett Taylor was a narcissist that never listened to the opinions of others. He simply did whatever he liked, and that was also why Hilda Aker and the rest ganged up against Gloria Kennedy. The one who was truly against the latter wasn't the rest of the family but Garrett Taylor himself. When he had run to be the family head, it was Gloria Kennedy's family who had spoken up, saying that he didn't deserve the role because of his character. This was why he held a grudge against them, and he naturally hadn't forgotten about it just because of the passing of time. On the contrary, he buried it in his heart, waiting to deal the other a lethal blow at the right time. Sir, that's wrong. You're insulting both Madam Kennedy and us by throwing her into the pigsty. How could we stay out of this? Garrett Taylor hit the stick in his hand against the ground. That's ridiculous. Who are you to say that I'm insulting you? Garrett Taylor waved his hand, and the dozen young men behind him rushed forward, shoving the outsiders onto the ground. The outsiders struggled, but they lost in numbers and had no way of fighting back against the others. They could only watch on as Gloria Kennedy was thrown into the pigsty. There was nothing they could do. No, the foreigners shouted helplessly. Just then, a luxury car screeched to a halt in front of Gloria Kennedy's house. As the car door opened, Finn Taylor, Hunter Sullivan, and Diane Taylor got out of the car. When the young girl saw her mother trapped in the pigsty, her heart broke. She rushed over, wanting to open the gates. However, someone else from the family pushed her away. Thankfully, Finn Taylor stepped forward to catch her in time. Otherwise, she might have gotten hurt. Pigsty, who still owns a pigsty in this era? Finn Taylor chuckled. How could they be Taylors as well? Mind your own business, young man. Garrett Taylor warned him off, annoyed. What if I insist on butting in? You want to butt in? Fine, let's see if you're strong enough to do so then. As soon as Garrett Taylor finished his sentence, 5 to 6 young men gathered around Finn Taylor, wanting to scare him off with their numbers. So you want to fight? Are you scared? Apologize and scram then. Garrett Taylor was advanced in age but still had a nasty temper. Finn Taylor merely smiled at the other's request. How dare you ask me to scram? Brat, how dare you disrespect Elder Taylor? The man closest to Finn Taylor had already rushed up, but before he could get close, the latter pinned him on the ground. I think you'd better charge forward together. Finn Taylor had no interest in fighting these untrained men one-on-one. The Taylor family was extremely proud, and they naturally wouldn't take this insult lying down. In an instant, more than a dozen men charged forward in an attempt to take Finn Taylor down. But before they could do anything, Hunter Sullivan grabbed hold of Garrett Taylor. How dare you touch him, old man? You must be tired of living. Garrett Taylor struggled to break free from his grasp, but it was to no avail. Now that Hunter Sullivan had their family head in his hands, the Taylor family members naturally dared not act rashly. Are you threatening me, brat? Hee, I've held the reins of this family for decades. Do you think I've ever feared anyone? Hunter Sullivan chuckled, feeling that the old man was being ridiculous. What are you laughing at? At you. Do you think you're worthy of calling your family the Taylor family in front of him? What? I'm the eldest in the Taylor family. Of course, I can. Then, do you know who he is? I don't know, I don't want to know, and I don't need to know. Garrett Taylor was too proud. To an ignorant fool like him, this village was his whole world. The only Taylor family he knew was the one in this village. I'm warning you to let him go. Otherwise, you'll pay for it later. I've lived 92 years, and I've never shed a tear in my life. Hunter Sullivan didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. I've already tried my best to make this old man change his mind, but he refuses to do so. Since that's the case, they can't blame me for being heartless. Bang, bang, bang. Just then, 5 to 6 SUVs drove straight into the village and stopped only when they reached Gloria Kennedy's house. After that, dozens of men got out of the cars. 3 men got out of the first car, and their auras were clearly different. Everyone in the village recognized the men William Dugars, Finley Kennedy, and Emery Kleina. They were the 3 biggest bosses of Greenwich, and their combined assets made up more than 2/3 of all the assets in Greenwich. Each and every one of them was a renowned figure in the city. Who would have thought that they'd visit this village today? Why are they even here? The first thought that came to the villagers' minds was relocation. Did they want to develop our village and move us away? We'll get a good sum as compensation then. It'll be no different from striking the jackpot. Garrett Taylor looked expectantly at the 3 men as they walked toward him. He couldn't wait to see how these men would have to bow down to the 3 men that had just arrived. Seeing that they were indeed walking toward him, his heart thumped. "Mr. Sullivan, we're sorry for being late." The 3 men walked up to Garrett Taylor but completely ignored him. The only one that mattered to them was Hunter Sullivan. They gave a deep bow in unison, their expressions as humble as they could be. Hunter Sullivan glanced at his watch. "You guys are 10 minutes late." Fear was evident in the eyes of the 3 men being reprimanded. "Mr. Sullivan, They tried to explain themselves, but the other cut them off. "A slap for every minute." Hunter Sullivan's words made him seem like a lunatic to the villagers. Does he know who these people are? They're the 3 most influential businessmen in Greenwich: William Dugars, Finley Kennedy, and Emery Kleina. He's stupid enough to try to hold Elder Taylor hostage, but how could he not recognize these 3 men? In fact, he even asked them to slap themselves. Isn't he just courting death? Everyone shared the same thoughts, yet the unexpected happened: the trio started slapping themselves. Besides, they didn't even seem like they were simply putting on an act. They weren't sparing any effort in slapping themselves. What is going on? Very quickly, the 3 had slapped themselves 10 times. Stuttering, the men then asked hesitantly, "Will that do, Mr. Sullivan?" Hunter Sullivan didn't put them in the spot. After all, he would need them to resolve this matter later on. "I asked you over because I needed a favor from you." Although the 3 men were prominent figures in the city, they were at the bottom of the rank when compared to Hunter Sullivan. Hearing the latter's words, the 3 men felt their hearts leap out of their chests. "Mr. Sullivan, don't say that. You can just give your instructions." Hunter Sullivan didn't beat around the bush and pointed at Diane Taylor. "She's my distant relative, and that's her mom." A few outsiders started renting a place in the village. They helped her mother out only once, and rumors started circulating in the village. "Can you deal with it?" The men were no strangers to such a situation. They quickly nodded before turning to the villagers. "Who's in charge here?" Garrett Taylor was already trembling in fear. Nonetheless, he stepped forward. "I'm the eldest here." Hunter Sullivan released his grip on the old man. William Dugars glanced at the man before casually asking, "Have you heard of the rumors?" "Mr. Dugars, you can't say that. They're not just rumors, many of the villagers here personally witnessed it." The other man chuckled. He was used to seeing others lie to him. "Who saw it? Tell me all about it." He then grabbed hold of a random person by his side. "Come on, why don't you tell me what you saw?" The person in William Dugars's grasp had indeed stood out earlier, saying that he had seen it happening. But now that he was facing William Dugars, he was so terrified that his legs gave way. Nothing. I didn't see anything." William Dugars then turned to the rest. This time, he grabbed hold of Hilda Akers' husband Hudson Taylor. The couple had made the biggest fuss just moments earlier, so everyone was waiting to see what he would say. I didn't see anything either." As expected, he crumbled in front of this influential figure. Who was the fiercest earlier? William Dugars questioned the villagers. He was going to pick out the one who had blown this whole matter up. Silence. Nobody dared to say a word. "All right, since nobody is saying anything, all of you are culprits." Eventually, the villagers caved under duress. "She was the one. Her name is Hilda Aker. She hates Gloria Kennedy, so she gave us money and made us collude to malign Gloria." Someone pointed at Hilda Aker, spilling the beans. The latter became the center of attention. "So you're the one." Hilda Aker was flustered now that she was being singled out by William Dugars. "No, I'm not." She subconsciously backed away as she said so. "Hurry up and spill it. Did you accuse her of doing something she didn't?" William Dugars pulled the woman over. The latter recognized him. There is only one way out if you go against William Dugars' death. She couldn't help but panic. "Don't get angry over this, Mr. Dugars." Garrett Taylor tried to sweep this matter under the rug. "Old fart, I'm already giving you enough respect. Who do you think I am? If you dare to lie one more time, I'll make sure you won't leave this place alive today. The villagers knew that William Dugars meant what he said. Even if she wants to die, we don't want to die just yet. Hilda, hurry up and spill the truth. Yes, hurry up, we all know that you were lying. What's the point of keeping up this act? Everyone who had previously been on her side was now turning against her. Eventually, Hilda Aker could no longer hold it in. That's right, I made it all up to accuse Gloria Kennedy. William Dugars let the woman go. He wasn't one to attack women anyway. Garrett Taylor was the one he was after. Without that old man's support, the villagers never would have dared to do such a thing. Kneel down. Garrett Taylor was already in his 90s, yet William Dugars was asking him to get down on his knees. The old man felt as though his life was being threatened. Mr. Dugars, Elder Taylor is already 92 years old. If you don't get down on your knees, I'll make sure everyone from your family dies. I always mean what I say. Do you want to make a bet on that? Betting with William Dugars? Of course, we wouldn't dare to do that. Who knows how many people he has killed to get to where he is today? Do you think he'd care if he has to kill us too? Garrett Taylor felt that he would lose all dignity if he were to kneel down, yet none of the villagers wanted to be sent on their way with the old man. As such, someone stepped forward to kick Garrett Taylor in the knees. At his age, the old man had probably been seriously injured. Yet, he had brought this all upon himself. As the eldest in the village, he should have treated everyone fairly. Instead of doing so, he had indiscriminately maligned Gloria Kennedy. Since he had created this situation, it was only right for him to face the consequences of his decision. Why aren't you guys kneeling too? Don't tell me that you weren't a part of this. It was only right for Garrett Taylor to take responsibility as the village head, but what about the rest of the villagers? Hadn't they spread the rumors too? In fact, they had been even crueler than the old man. William Dugars wouldn't even let the village head off, so there was no way he was going to let the others off. The villagers lowered their heads, not daring to say anything. If we kneel down to Gloria Kennedy today, we'll lose all dignity in front of her in the future. They were naturally reluctant to do so. What are you doing? Didn't you hear me? Yet, there was nothing they could do after the eldest of the village had already commanded them to do so. One by one, they fell onto their knees. Don't think that you can bully Gloria Kennedy after I leave just because you feel miserable. From now on, I'm taking Gloria Kennedy's family under my wings. If any of you dare to do anything to that family, you can wait to die. Not a single person dared to take his words lightly. Even though they had been planning on taking their revenge earlier, those thoughts immediately dissipated after hearing the warning. Mr. Sullivan, will this do? William Dugars turned to Hunter Sullivan. He was in no place to make a decision, only Hunter Sullivan was. The latter called the shots here. Hunter Sullivan glanced at the other, smiling. Young man, I remember that you were only a bodyguard when I first met you. Others started following you when your boss died, and you got smug. I never thought that you would get so lucky and meet a benefactor. William Dugars was confused by this. You'll discover the inception of this content at N0V at Elbin. Finn Taylor stretched his arm out. There were a few crumpled pieces of paper in his hand. Take one. William Dugars still didn't understand what was going on. In fact, he didn't even know who Finn Taylor was. But seeing that Hunter Sullivan didn't say anything, he reached out for a piece of paper. He saw a string of numbers written on it, 1 billion. Finn Taylor nodded. I'll make sure that all three of you will be worth more than $1 billion within a year. William Dugars was dumbfounded. What's going on? Isn't Hunter Sullivan the one in charge here? Why does it sound like this young man is bragging? Who is he? Hunter Sullivan patted him on the shoulder. Tell me more about your birthday and astrology sign when you're free. I'll get an astrologist to analyze it to see how lucky you are. He couldn't help but sigh. I made great sacrifices to become a billionaire, yet William Dugars won't even have to do much to get into the same position. The latter was a bodyguard in the past, and all his fellow bodyguards were killed one after another. That was how he had become the top bodyguard up until the day his boss was assassinated. With nobody to inherit his boss's assets and the latter's men waiting to be paid, William Dugars was eventually voted to become their boss. This was how he lived a carefree life on someone else's accounts for the past few years, and now, he's going to become a billionaire. Mr. Sullivan, could you introduce us? William Dugars wasn't a fool. It was clear to him that Finn Taylor was more influential than Hunter Sullivan. It's better if you don't know anything. I'm warning you to keep your mouth shut about what happened today. You'll be digging your own grave if you say anything about what you saw today. William Dugars naturally understood the dangers of getting involved with such big shots. Of course, I understand. I won't say a word about it. The other two men beside him immediately made an oath too. Diane, bring your mom home. We still have something left to do. Diane Taylor didn't know what her employer was up to, but she didn't pursue the matter. There was no need for a woman like her to know too much. Once the mother-daughter duo left, Finn Taylor walked up and grabbed hold of Hilda Aker's neck. Exerting a little force, he broke the woman's neck and ended her life. I'm close to this family. If anyone still has any grievances and tries to do something funny again, you'll end up just like her. Do you understand? Finn Taylor knew that he had to beat it into these villagers so that they would never dare to take their revenge in this lifetime. Why yes, to be honest, they were all terrified. Not a single one of them dared to meet Finn Taylor's eyes. Scram, Finn Taylor spat out, he didn't want to see them again. Needless to say, the villagers quickly scrambled off. As for Hilda Aker, her husband dragged her away. Ignoring all of them, Finn Taylor headed for Diane Taylor's house. For some reason, William Dugars felt chills run down his spine as he watched the other walk away. He's a strong Manon that shouldn't be trifled with. People like this hide their anger well, but once they explode, all hell breaks loose. I must follow him and never betray him. Hunter Sullivan walked up to the outsiders. Were you the ones who helped Gloria Kennedy? The men looked frightened. We were just trying to be helpful. We didn't think that we would bring such trouble upon Madam Kennedy. Don't worry about it. Hunter Sullivan casually whipped out a bank card and handed it to the men. Here's $150,000 as a token of appreciation from Mr. Sullivan. The men held the card. Although it was merely a card, it felt weighty. What would you like us to do? Stay here in this village and protect Gloria Kennedy. Make sure she doesn't get bullied again. The men glanced at each other, dumbfounded. Gloria Kennedy seems just like any other ordinary woman. Why does she know such powerful men? Don't tell Gloria Kennedy about this. Just take it. The men gave it some thought. Gloria Kennedy is a good woman. We can't let her get bullied. Since we'll help her out anyway, we might as well take the money. They quickly thanked Hunter Sullivan, who waved them off. Of course, Gloria Kennedy didn't matter. However, she had given birth to a good daughter. Hunter Sullivan had met Diane Taylor before, and even he felt that she had done a good job taking care of Finn Taylor. Besides, they were both Taylors. He had seen Master Peregrine address the young girl as his sister. Perhaps this was fate. Finn Taylor walked into the house to see the young girl talking to her mom. Seeing Finn Taylor enter, Gloria Kennedy immediately got up. I'll go get some tea. Her daughter hurriedly stopped her. Don't give him tea made from those awful tea leaves. It'll upset his stomach. We don't even have a proper chair at home. The best I can do is to put some clothes over the stool so that it'll be more comfortable. Diane Taylor quickly took her clothes out of the closet and placed them on the chair, inviting her employer to take a seat. The latter couldn't help but chuckle. What do you take me for? Although Diane Taylor was a girl, she was well educated and naturally understood what he meant. Her mom had wanted to make tea for him, but she had refused, afraid that it would upset his stomach. She had even used her own clothes to pad the stool, afraid that it would dirty his clothes. Diane Taylor and her mom had gone to such great lengths. Finn Taylor turned to the older woman. Auntie, don't mind her. You can just make tea with whatever tea leaves you have. Please do make more if you can. I'm sure those men outside are thirsty too. Gloria Kennedy had spent her life in the village, and the only way she knew how to show her gratitude was by presenting the best she had to her benefactor. But earlier on, she had been stumped by her daughter's words and had been at a loss as to what to do. Thankfully, Finn Taylor cut in. She quickly headed into the kitchen to make tea. Oh, it's true that the tea we have at home doesn't taste very good. Finn Taylor smiled as he sat down. He hadn't sat down on the chair where the young girl had placed her clothes. He wasn't a pampered child. He'd never do that. We're about done here. Well, will you return to San Francisco with me now? Diane Taylor wasn't an ingrate. Now that Finn Taylor had already gone to such lengths, it would be ridiculous if she didn't return with him. Mr. Taylor, I'll definitely go back with you. Very quickly, Gloria Kennedy came out with a pot of tea. Finn Taylor turned to her. Send it outside. You'll discover the inception of this content at N0V at Elbin. Aren't you going to let them come in to have a seat? She was stunned. They helped us, after all. Shouldn't we invite them in? This house doesn't have any men. It wouldn't be right for them to come in. Diane Taylor couldn't hold in her emotions when she heard that. Time flew by. After her short reunion with her mom, Diane Taylor eventually returned to San Francisco with her employer. Although Gloria Kennedy remained in the village, nobody dared to bother her anymore. Everyone now knew that she had influential figures supporting her, figures that none of them could afford to offend. To everyone's surprise, Linda James had whipped up a whole meal in advance, waiting for Diane Taylor's return. Even Finn Taylor was shocked. Since when did my mother-in-law change? To be honest, if she had acted in this manner throughout the past 3 years, our relationship would probably be much better. At the table, Linda James even picked up a piece of meat and placed it on Diane Taylor's plate. "Diane, I was wrong. I made you this meal. Will you forgive me?" Diane Taylor was at a loss when faced with such sudden affection from the older woman, and she stood up in shock. "Auntie, Yvette Larson sat the young girl back down as she glared at her mom. "Spill it. What do you want?" Linda James waved her off. "Nothing. What are you saying? I don't want anything from you." Only then did Finn Taylor come to his senses. "So she needs a favor from me. No wonder. Forget it then. I won't agree to whatever you say this week." Yvette Larson was resolute. But just then, Linda James let out a smile that made her son-in-law come to a realization. It looks like she really has something to ask of me. No wonder she changed so suddenly. However, I guess she's still the same. Nothing has changed, but it's true that she's become much better after going through those experiences. Actually, I do have something to tell you. Do you remember Auntie Melinda? Who? Auntie Melinda Lowe. Oh, I remember her now. Why do you ask? Her son is getting married. I want you guys to attend the wedding with me. Yvette Larson was indifferent. I'm not going. Why not? They came to your wedding, so how can you not go? Did they come to attend our wedding? They were here to make fun of us. Don't you remember how gleeful they were then? Don't be like that. I already promised them that we would go. Seeing that the mother-daughter duo was about to get into an argument, Finn Taylor quickly cut in. All right, Mom, we'll go. Linda James burst out into a smile and put a piece of meat on her son-in-law's plate as well. See, my son-in-law knows what's up. Her daughter rolled her eyes. Son-in-law, that's not how you addressed him in the past. Linda James felt a little guilty, but she wasn't in any place to make a rebuttal. It was true that she had wronged her son-in-law in the past. After the meal, Diane Taylor started washing up the dishes, and Yvette Larson pulled her husband into the room. Why did you agree to Mom's request? It's obvious that there's more to it. Finn Taylor shook his head. It's all right, as long as she's happy. It's no big deal anyway. Sigh, I just think that you've made the wrong move. It'll be difficult to back out of this. Finn Taylor shook his head. None of this matters. Now that I've gone through so much, I understand that nothing matters more than a peaceful life. Come out, Finn. Linda James suddenly called for him. See, trouble is calling. Finn Taylor laughed but went out. Mom, what's up? Help me see which outfit looks best. Linda James handed her phone over. The outfit did look good, and even the materials and workmanship looked top-notch. You know that I've lived a hard life after marrying into the Larson family. I don't have any nice outfits. Since we're going to the wedding, I want to get a new outfit. What about this one? Get it. How much does it cost? Finn Taylor was prepared to transfer the money over to his mother-in-law. $20,000. What? Finn Taylor thought that he had heard her wrongly. 20,000, is she serious? Yes, 20,000. Yvette Larson observed the scene by the door. She heard her mom loud and clear, and she immediately rushed down. Mom, are you mad? 20,000 for an outfit? Without delay, Linda James started sobbing yet again. That's right, 20,000 is an exorbitant sum. After all I've done for the family, just asking for an outfit is too much. Linda James was still Linda James after all. The meal hadn't changed anything. She wanted to buy an excessively priced outfit, but her daughter refused, and the only thing she knew to do was throw a tantrum. Of course, Finn Taylor was already used to that. Mom, can you stop crying? I didn't say that I wouldn't buy it for you. With that, he got ready to wire transfer the money over. But he had no sooner taken out his phone than it was snatched away by his wife. No, you're not allowed to buy it. Mom, nobody is denying that you've made valuable contributions to the family, but have you ever thought about what buying this outfit signifies? You're just materialistic and want everyone's eyes to be on you when you attend the wedding. You want them to know that you're rich, right? But do you think that's worth it? Finn Taylor felt that his wife was wasting her breath. Do you really think you can reason it out with her? If you could, she wouldn't have treated me in that way over the past 3 years. Sigh, all I want to do is buy an outfit. Can't I do even that? Linda James was now rolling on the ground. The other 2 members of the household arrived. Even with the whole family staring at her, Linda James felt no shame at all. In fact, her acting got even more intense. Finn Taylor pulled his wife to the side. Forget it, if money solves the problem, it's no problem at all. Money didn't mean a thing to Finn Taylor. There was no need to fight with his mother-in-law over money. No, if you give in to her this time, history will repeat itself. For some reason, Yvette Larson was resolute this time. Mom, how much do you need? 20,000. Finn Taylor was thinking that his wife might agree to it if her mother were to offer a smaller sum. However, Linda James was too unreasonable. Forget it, you two can fight it out, I can't convince either of you. 20,000, just 20,000. Hurry up and transfer it to me. No way, Finn, I'll chase you out if you give Mom any money today. Finn Taylor remained silent. He hadn't expected to be caught in the middle. Yvette, this outfit is actually, Francis Larson stuttered. It seemed like he had something to say. Dad, do you mean you support Mom buying it too? But it costs 20,000. Yvette Larson hadn't expected her usually frugal father to agree to her mom's request. This outfit looks very much like an outfit that your mom wanted to buy before our wedding. It was just that we didn't have money at that time. I actually support your mom getting this outfit. Nobody had expected this backstory. Still, Yvette Larson was suspicious. Dad, don't tell me you made up a story to help Mom. No, of course not. I wouldn't lie to you. In Yvette Larson's memory, her father had never lied to her. It seemed like he was telling the truth. Get up, I'll buy it for you. Linda James immediately got up. Yvette Larson handed the phone back to her husband, who immediately transferred $20,000 over to his mother-in-law. The transaction was a success, and the outfit was to be delivered that afternoon. A smile was plastered on Linda James's face. To be honest, this was the first time Finn Taylor had ever spotted such a sincere smile on her face. This could only mean that his father-in-law hadn't made that story up. That afternoon, a security officer arrived at number 1 Pacific Heights with a delivery man. Mr. Taylor, there's a delivery for you. He says that it's expensive and that you have to do a check on the item before signing off for it. Finn Taylor nodded. Yes, it's me. Come on in. The security officer was shocked. He had never expected the other to invite him into the house. This was number 1 Pacific Heights, the most expensive and luxurious house in San Francisco. He was nothing more than a mere security officer, yet the other had invited him in. No wonder all the security officers are full of praises for Mr. Taylor. So many wealthy families live on Pacific Heights, but Mr. Taylor is the only one who ever greets us. That's really amazing. The delivery man brought the item in and smiled slightly guiltily. I'm sorry, but I have a shameless request. Because it's so expensive, I'll turn on my camera while you open the box to examine it. Finn Taylor nodded in agreement. It was best that they all kept their guards up. After all, it was worth $20,000. Once the delivery man switched on his camera, he opened the box. In that instant, everyone was stunned. You do it, Yvette. Yvette Larson was a woman and had a better understanding of clothes. Finn Taylor had seen his wife analyzing her clothes in the bedroom for a long time today too. To be honest, he was moved by the sight. It proved one thing: he hadn't married the wrong woman. He was filthy rich. Any other woman would have become a spendthrift, but not his wife. She insisted on running her company well and making a name for herself as a strong and independent woman. She didn't want to be a piece of trash that only relied on her husband. This was why she could spend $20,000 on an outfit. Still, she analyzed it carefully. There was no way she would spend her money carelessly. Yvette Larson took the outfit out of the box and examined it closely, not missing any detail. On the other hand, the owner of the outfit, Linda James, simply stood by the side. She wanted to take the outfit out to have a look at it, but her daughter quickly put a stop to that. Don't touch it. Linda James was slightly confused. But it's mine. Nobody is fighting with you over it, but don't touch it before we're done examining it. We'll have trouble if you damage it. Her mom was speechless. Do I have needles on my hands? Why would I damage the dress? I just want to have a look at it. Sigh, don't think too much about it. Your daughter paid for the outfit, so just listen to her. Linda James could only comfort herself inwardly. I didn't spend a single cent on this. I better just shut up. Finally, after more than an hour's examination, Yvette Larson nodded. There's nothing wrong with this. I'll sign off for it. She had been way more detailed than the delivery man had expected, and his forehead was full of sweat. Hearing her words, he finally let out a sigh of relief. Right as the delivery man thought that it was all over, Yvette Larson handed the outfit to her mom. Go try it on. The delivery man asked tentatively, can you sign off the delivery now? Not yet, we'll have to see how it looks. Yvette Larson decisively rejected his request. There was nothing the man could do. Very quickly, Linda James walked out in the $20,000 outfit. Everyone was stunned the moment she opened the door. It wasn't because she was exceptionally beautiful in the outfit, but that it was simply a complete change from her usual self. She had been like a crazy housewife in the past, but this outfit made her seem like an affluent and influential lady. Perhaps clothes did make a person. Does it look good on me? Linda James asked her family hesitantly. She was slightly anxious. Although she was materialistic, she was never one to spend her money without any thought. There was a reason she had wanted to buy this $20,000 outfit. If it didn't look good on her, she would ask for a refund, even though it would be a pity to do so. That was why she felt nervous. It looks good. You'll discover the inception of this content at N0V at Elbin. Really? Yes. Still unconvinced, she turned to her husband. Do I look good in it? If I don't, let's get a refund on it. Francis Larson was unused to his spouse acting in this manner. Be yourself. I feel like I don't even know you now, Francis Larson confessed. Although it was nice to have his wife like this, it was difficult to adapt to her sudden change. What do you mean? Don't spout nonsense. I'm asking you if I look good in this. Sigh, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, you look good. PFF'd. Everyone else nearly burst into laughter upon hearing their conversation. Everyone has told me that I look good, and even I feel the same. Linda James rolled her eyes. All right, we'll sign for it. Yvette Larson gestured. Hold on, where's the receipt? The delivery man quickly presented it to her. How about the certificate of authenticity? Certificate of authenticity? He was stumped. There should be a certificate of authenticity to say which designer made this outfit. Oh, he nodded. That we'll need you to apply for that personally in our shop with your receipt. We'll get a refund then, Yvette Larson said decisively before asking her mom to change out of the outfit. She's definitely a strong woman. How amazing. The delivery man was at a loss. I'll get someone to send it over now. Now, do you mean you didn't bring such an important thing? Is that how your company works? The delivery man was rendered speechless. Please give me a moment. I'll speak with my manager. He then made a call to his manager. Of course, Yvette Larson didn't try to stop him. She knew that the other wouldn't be able to make a decision and that she would eventually have to speak to his manager. Very quickly, the delivery man got through to his manager and explained his situation. The response he received was just as he expected, and he handed the phone to Yvette Larson respectfully. Miss, our manager would like to talk to you. The young lady took the phone over and put the call on speaker mode. She then took out her own phone to record the conversation. Hello, miss, I'd like to sincerely apologize for not sending the certificate of authenticity over with the outfit. I've sent someone over. I hope that you'll understand. Yvette Larson replied, there's nothing to understand. You're just not meticulous in your work. I question the way your company works, and I'd like a refund now. The manager hadn't expected Yvette Larson to remain so resolute. Please calm down, miss. I heard my employee say that you've already examined the outfit and that there is nothing wrong with the quality. The only thing missing is the certificate of authenticity, and we're willing to compensate you for that. You'll get a 20% discount in our boutique whenever you shop with us in the future. That won't be necessary. I'll take half price on this outfit. The manager met all sorts of customers in his line of work, including those who loved to bargain. However, it was his first time encountering someone who tried to bargain for half price. That was too brutal. If he were to sell it at $10,000, he would practically be giving the outfit away for free. Miss, that's a little tough. We can't do that. All right, we'll get a refund then. The outfit is still in perfect condition, and I'm sure your camera would have recorded it. I hope that I'll receive my money within 24 hours, otherwise, I'll get my lawyer to send you a letter. Yvette Larson's attitude rendered the manager speechless. Please hold on for a moment, miss. I'll discuss this with headquarters. Yvette Larson smiled. 10 minutes. She then hung up without giving the other a chance to say any more. That manager had wanted to explain himself, yet he was cut off so suddenly. He understood that he would probably be fired from his job if he didn't handle this well. He quickly made a call to headquarters, and thankfully, his call immediately got through. He explained the situation as simply as he could, and headquarters quickly weighed the pros and cons. Unexpectedly, they agreed to it. To be honest, the manager was stumped. The company just bowed down to an individual. Leaving his shock aside, he quickly made a call to the delivery man again. The latter quickly accepted it and handed the phone to the young lady in front of him. Just like before, Yvette Larson put the call on speaker and recorded the conversation. "Hello, miss, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. I've discussed it with headquarters, and they're willing to give you a 50% discount on this outfit." "Alright, but I want the actual value of this outfit to be stated on the certificate of authenticity." The manager was slightly confused. "She's saying that this outfit should be worth 20,000, but we're selling it to her at 10,000. Still, she wants us to certify that it costs 20,000. But that doesn't make sense." The manager was at a loss. Although he was faced with a challenge, the manager eventually agreed to it. "I have to be adaptable. Since headquarters has already made a compromise, there's no need for me to rigidly stick to the rules as well." "But why did they give in this time? Haven't they always been on my side? Isn't their policy never to back down when customers try to bargain? What's going on this time?" "Alright, I'll deliver the certificate to you personally right away." "Okay." Yvette Larson hung up and returned the delivery man his phone. The latter was stunned. Headquarters gave in, and so did my manager. How could that be? But since they've already chosen to compromise, there's no need for me to think too much about it. It'll only get me in more trouble. Very quickly, the manager arrived at the foot of Pacific Heights. Unfortunately, he couldn't enter based on his status alone. Finn Taylor glanced at the security officer. When they entered, Finn Taylor had instructed his father-in-law to entertain the guests. That stumped the security officer. "I never thought that I would ever meet the owner of number 1 Pacific Heights. However, not only have I met him, but he's even treating me so kindly. Even if I tell others about this, I'm sure they won't believe me. They have to experience this firsthand, otherwise, they'll think I'm mad. Mr. Taylor, hand this to me. I'll go pick him up." He excitedly rushed out of the house. Finn Taylor smiled. He wasn't one to look down on others as long as they were kind. On the contrary, he wouldn't hesitate to step on anyone with evil intentions, no matter how rich they were. Very quickly, the security officer returned with the manager. The latter immediately bowed to everyone, making a sincere apology. He then handed 2 documents to Yvette Larson. The first was the certificate of authenticity, and the second was the valuation certificate. Seeing this, Yvette Larson quickly signed off on the delivery slip. Now that the matter was resolved, Finn Taylor suddenly asked, "Did you mention our name when you called headquarters?" The manager was slightly confused, not understanding what the other was asking about. Nonetheless, he replied seriously, "No, we view our customers' confidentiality as key. However, headquarters can check the files if they want to find out." "Alright, I understand." The manager was still confused. Once their guests left, Yvette Larson walked up to her husband. "What did you mean earlier?" "Nothing much. I know their boss, so I just want to know if I owe her a favor now." "She's your friend. Why does he have friends everywhere? Don't tell me that you're the friend you're talking about." Sigh. "Oh, right mom, when is the wedding? We should get ready for it too." Finn Taylor quickly avoided the topic, and that made his wife even more suspicious. Is this company really Finn's? That's not entirely impossible, otherwise, why did he transfer the money without any hesitation? "We still have a week, but you guys can start getting ready for it if you want to." Before Finn Taylor said anything, his wife spoke up. "Alright, let's get some new clothes too. That boutique earlier seems quite good, so let's get our outfits from them as well." "Finn, how much of a discount are they going to give us?" "From the looks of it, my wife has already guessed what's going on. I won't be able to keep this under wraps for much longer." Finn Taylor's eyes lit up. "I'll bring you straight to the headquarters then." "Alright," Yvette Larson agreed. Finn Taylor felt helpless, but since his wife had requested it, he wasn't going to refuse. The couple drove toward the headquarters. As they drove further away from the city center, Yvette Larson got more confused. They were clearly headed for Los Angeles. "We're going to Los Angeles." "Yes. Do you mean that the boss is?" Evidently, Yvette Larson already had her answer but held her tongue. "Yes, Chloe Yates." Yvette Larson felt dizzy. "I was right. This outfit is from Chloe Yates." Finn Taylor didn't even bother informing anyone about his arrival and simply walked into the office. Nobody stopped him along the way. Of course, the couple was confused by that. What is going on? But when they arrived on the second floor, they spotted Finn Taylor's photo on the wall. "This what am I to them? No wonder they looked at me so weirdly." Finn Taylor pushed open the door to Chloe Yates's office, wanting to say something when he saw a young girl in the office. The girl was about 5 to 6 years old and had exquisite features. She was dressed in a vintage dress, and the airy bangs covering her forehead and her sweet smile were enough to dispel any negative thoughts. "Mr. Taylor, why are you here? Finn Taylor pointed at the girl. Is she your daughter? The other nodded. That's right. What? How is that possible? She was still single when I last came to Los Angeles. It has only been a few months since then, yet her child is already 5 or 6. Haha, I'm kidding. She's our model. Ellie, say hi. Ellie walked up to Finn Taylor, revealing a mandarin orange in her hand. Here, for you. Finn Taylor picked it up, peeled it, and returned half to the young girl. He then handed the other half to his wife. How adorable. Yvette Larson sighed. Her husband whispered in her ear, why don't we have one too? She rolled her eyes, ignoring the other. Do you have anything that will suit us? We're supposed to attend a wedding, but we don't have any clothes for it. Chloe Yates typed something on her keyboard while saying, you could have just done that on the internet. Why did you have to come over? Isn't it obvious? I don't want to spend any money. Chloe Yates acted as though she was about to vomit blood. Finn Taylor, you're a big boss. Do you not feel bad for saying that? Oh right, I want a reimbursement for these $10,000 too. Finn Taylor shamelessly handed the receipt over to Chloe Yates. Chloe Yates looked up the couple's payment information on the computer. As Finn Taylor handed a piece of paper over, she intuitively reached out of it. However, the contents of the paper shocked her. It was a receipt from her company. 10,000. Mr. Taylor, don't you think you're being very shameless by getting clothes from me before asking me for a reimbursement? Sigh, it's up to you whether you reimburse us or not. Chloe Yates's head throbbed, but there was nothing she could do. Fine, I'll reimburse you. Will that do? She was about to transfer the money to the man when he cut in. Hold on, I have something to show you. He then took out the valuation certificate. The outfit is worth 20,000. Why don't you transfer me 20,000? Chloe Yates was at an utter loss for words. This man is hopeless. Wow, you spent only 10,000 with my company, but you're asking for 20,000. Not only did you get what you wanted, but you even earned 10,000. I'm making losses here. Chloe Yates nearly vomited blood, yet she was in no place to be petty about money with Finn Taylor. Their relationship couldn't be measured in monetary terms. Come here and take a look at these outfits. Chloe Yates turned the monitor toward the couple. At the same time, Finn Taylor received $20,000 in his account. Finn Taylor gave no care to it as his wife walked up and started meticulously analyzing the outfits. To be honest, Chloe Yates had chosen fine pieces for the couple. They suited them well. Do you have the samples here? Of course. Chloe Yates made a call to her subordinates, instructing them to bring the outfits up. You guys came just in time. We just finished making these samples yesterday. The outfits were sent to the office in no time, and Yvette Larson's face was filled with awe as she gazed at the clothes. They're even more beautiful than I expected. They're not bad, I'll take them. Finn Taylor was about to leave with the outfits, but his wife stopped him. Hold on, it's about mealtime, so let's have a meal before we go. Finn Taylor smiled cheekily. How could I do that? I'm having a free meal after getting free clothes. Yvette Larson rolled her eyes. What are you saying? We should be the ones treating Chloe. Her husband replied, how much would that cost? She's the boss of a company. Don't you think that's not right? Chloe Yates quickly stood up. Of course, it's all right. We're just a small company, so I can't afford to treat you to a meal. Anyone who didn't know them might misunderstand that they were so poor that they had to argue over the bill. Perhaps they were even on bad terms with each other. But in reality, they were affluent people that were close to each other. At the table, Chloe Yates tested them. There's something I want to ask about. The James family was thrown out at the Los Angeles bus station. What she wanted to know was whether Finn Taylor was on good terms with the family. From her observations, they weren't on good terms. However, the James family was indeed the latter's in-laws. So what was going on? I got someone to beat them up. Chloe Yates had her answer. As long as you don't kill them, Finn Taylor added. He was too soft-hearted toward that shameless family. Chloe Yates merely nodded without saying anything. There was no need to explicitly put it out there. When they returned, Yvette Larson turned to her husband. I left some money on Chloe's desk earlier. She thought that she would get lectured, but her spouse simply said, I saw it. You saw it, why didn't you stop me then? Ha ha ha, I was just playing around with her. I'll pay her for the clothes. A week flew by, and it was the day of the wedding. Linda James had already gotten dressed early in the morning and was all ready to head out. However, the couple hadn't woken up even at 8 in the morning. Linda James knocked on their door. Yvette, Finn, it's time to get up. It's already 10. The couple was deep in sleep, but their eyes immediately shot open as they blearily glanced at the clock. 8 o'clock. They were speechless. Mom, it's only 8. Why did you wake up so early? 8. I guess I saw the clock wrongly. Hurry and wake up. The couple wanted to sleep in, but Linda James made so much noise that it was impossible to do so. Left with no other choice, they could only get out of bed. When they were done washing up, Linda James immediately said, "Let's go, Yvette." The latter was speechless. Mom, it's only 8:30. You want to leave now? You'll discover the inception of this content at N0V at Elbin. We're good friends, so we should go help out. Mom, can you stop being so foolish? They'll treat us as fools if we turn up so early. Besides, you just want everyone to pay attention to your dress, right? The later you show up, the more attention they'll pay to you. Linda James gave it some thought. Her daughter did make sense, so she eventually gave up. Yvette Larson could only heave a sigh of relief. Thank God I managed to convince Mom. How awkward would it be if we showed up too early? San Francisco, Forest Hotel. It was a popular wedding location, and there was a large field within the hotel premises meant for weddings. At around 10, the field was already filled. Seeing several guests walking over, Melinda Lowe quickly stood up to welcome them. You're here. Of course. She then looked around. Where's Linda James? Maybe she won't show up, someone commented casually. However, this piqued everyone's curiosity. Why not? Didn't she say that she was coming with her son-in-law? Don't you know his situation? Do you think she'd come? The other gave it some thought. That's true. Don't we already know her well enough? If she wanted to come, she would have turned up a long time ago. Maybe she really isn't coming. Melinda Lowe was disappointed. How disappointing. I wanted to see how useless her son-in-law really is. Everyone is talking about how the Larson family has made a name for themselves, but so what? They have such a useless son-in-law. Melinda Lowe, as well as all the other guests, looked down on Linda James. It wasn't because they had any grudges against her but simply because she had once been the poorest amongst them. But now, she was the richest. It was only natural for them to feel bitter about it. But right then, Linda James showed up. Hey, she's here. They had just been discussing how the latter wouldn't turn up, so her appearance was like a slap in their faces. It annoyed them deeply. Then, they spotted Linda James's outfit. Leaving aside the brand, it was clear from just one look that it was a quality item. This made them even more sour. Linda James had been observing their expressions as she walked over, and she could feel their bitterness. Instead of feeling angry, she was over the moon. Just as the group of friends was about to explode, they spotted a young couple behind Linda James. They recognized the lady was Yvette Larson, Linda James's daughter. Seeing that she was holding that man's hand, it was clear that the young man was Linda James's useless son-in-law Finn Taylor. Who would have thought that the piece of trash would dare to show up for the wedding? Oh, Linda James, you must have come a long way from number 1 Pacific Heights. Linda James pretended to glance at her watch. Sigh. Finn, didn't you say that it would only take 10 minutes to come here in your Rolls-Royce? Why is it 11 o'clock already? Rolls-Royce. They had heard it clear as day. It was obvious that Linda James wasn't chiding Finn Taylor but letting them all know that he had a Rolls-Royce. They rolled their eyes, pretending not to have heard anything. Linda James, is this son-in-law Finn Taylor? Someone finally brought the topic back to Finn Taylor. However, they didn't know that this was only the beginning. There was much more to come. Come over, Finn. Say hello to them. Finn Taylor politely walked over to greet the ladies. There was nothing he could say in rebuttal. The wedding is about to start, so please excuse me for a while. We've placed name cards at the seats, so please look for your seats. Melinda Lowe then walked away, leaving the guests to look for their seats. They all found their seats in no time, with the exception of Linda James. The other ladies were seated close to the front, but even after walking around the venue, Linda James couldn't find her seat. Finn Taylor remained silent and headed straight for a table. There, he found a name card with his mother-in-law's name, as well as his and his wife's. Here, Mom. Linda James nearly flared up when she saw where her son-in-law was standing. Isn't this the most isolated area in the whole venue? What does Melinda mean by this? How could she put me here? Doesn't that mean she doesn't treat me as her best friend? Finn Taylor had noticed this table as soon as he entered. It was different from the others. More importantly, there were only 3 chairs at the table, unlike the others that had 10. He had suspected that the table had been prepared for his family of 3, and it indeed was. Linda James glanced at her name card on the table, wanting to reason it out with her friend. However, her daughter sat her back down. I told you not to come, but you insisted on coming. See, you're being insulted now. What's the point of trying to reason it out with them? What are you going to tell Auntie Melinda? That you're not in a good seat. Then, she'll just tell you that she's treating you well by giving you a table for your family alone. Based on your personality, I'm sure you'll ask her why she placed you in such a remote corner. However, she can say that there are only 3 of us at the table and that it wouldn't look good if she placed us nearer to the center. She could even say that it's my first time here with Finn and that she's protecting us by letting us sit alone. Have you thought about how you'll answer those questions? They prepared this a long time ago, while you only found out about this today. Don't you think that she would have thought all these questions through? You'll become a joke if you go and make a fuss now. You were already laughed at during our wedding. Do you want the same to happen at someone else's wedding? Yvette Larson made complete sense, and her mother had no way of rebutting her. Then, do we have to just take her insults? Yvette Larson glanced at her husband. Have you forgotten who your son-in-law is? It was only then that Linda James remembered how impressive her son-in-law was. It was clear that those women looked down on the latter, but they never would have imagined that this man was the most powerful in the entire venue. Do you mean you can salvage the situation? What situation? Do you want her son to get divorced or everyone here to die? Linda James was stunned. Don't scare me. I don't want anyone dead. I just want to be respected. That's easy. Just wait and see then. The wedding started very soon. The groom appeared very quickly and made his speech. Soon after, the bride made her appearance. The couple then started expressing their affection for each other, but everyone knew they were just words. The wedding was just a show for them, their parents, and their guests. Perhaps they were even tricking themselves at the same time. Many thought that they would remain faithful to their partner for the rest of their lives, only to realize that there were many more who deserved their love. The couple then exchanged rings before making a toast to their guests. Finn Taylor observed everything coolly. This was what he was waiting for. He wanted an explanation as to why they had sat the family here. If they were nice about it, he'd be nice to them too. Otherwise, Finn Taylor picked up a wine glass and swirled the cheap wine around. The wine was as murky as the couple's relationship. Melinda Lowe's son was named Ronan Simpson. He was an ambitious young man who worked as a human resources manager, and his salary was average about $50,000 a year. His wife was young and beautiful, and she had graduated from a top university too. They were a perfect match for each other. With a glass of wine each in their hands, the newlywed couple walked toward the family of 3. Melinda Lowe immediately apologized. Linda, it's my fault for putting you here. I'm so sorry. The others came alone, but you came with your family, so I had to arrange a separate table for you. It wouldn't have been nice to put this table of 3 in the middle, so I had no choice but to put you here. I hope you understand me, Linda. See, I've brought my son and daughter-in-law to give you the first toast. How's that for you? If not for the fact that Linda James had already heard her daughter say the same things, she would have believed the other. Thank you for taking time out to attend our wedding today. I would really like to thank the both of you, Ms. Yvette Larson, Mr. Finn Taylor. Finn Taylor had no idea what Ronan Simpson was up to by doing this, but he didn't cut in. Let's see what he's trying to do. He'll definitely reveal something by accident if he's up to something. Actually, I would really like to thank the both of you. Compared to the others, it feels different when you're here today. All of our friends in San Francisco know that Finn Taylor is the matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family and that the wedding 3 years ago was a joke. I thought that you guys would have a phobia of weddings and wouldn't attend ours, but you've come to give us your blessings today. Here's a toast to the 2 of you. I wish you happiness too. Ronan Simpson raised his glass. His actions seemed refined and polite, yet every word was like an insult to the couple. If he had only talked about Finn Taylor, the latter might not have gotten so angry. However, he had brought Yvette Larson into the picture as well. Excuse me for what I'm going to do to you then. I'll make sure you regret what you just said. Ronan Simpson, I think you better hold on before you drink that glass of wine. The other man smiled. What, does it not taste good? There had been no conflict between the 2 men. In fact, they didn't even know each other. He was only putting Finn Taylor in the spot because he had heard from his mother how the latter had been living off his wife ever since getting married. He didn't even need to work to live in number 1 Pacific Heights. He did nothing and got everything, enjoying whatever Yvette Larson earned. This naturally annoyed Ronan Simpson. I slave off in the company but only earn $50,000 a year. You don't even do anything, but you get more than $500,000. Why do you deserve that? It has nothing to do with the taste. I'm just afraid that you will choke on your wine. Choke? Why would I choke on my wine? You said earlier that I'm the matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family, and that's right. However, Did you know that my wife is still my wife and that she didn't give up on me even at my lowest? As for you, Finn Taylor chuckled but didn't continue. Finn Taylor, what do you mean? Don't spout nonsense. I'm not spouting nonsense. Why don't you ask your wife how many other men she's had? Because of what Ronan Simpson had done earlier, all eyes were on him. As such, they heard Finn Taylor's words too. Some guests had already started talking among themselves. Do you think Finn Taylor is telling the truth? Probably not. He's just a useless matrilocal son-in-law, so what would he know? But he sounds like he knows something that we don't. I don't think so. He doesn't know Ronan Simpson personally. That's true. Although the majority didn't believe Finn Taylor, their words were still unbearable to Ronan Simpson. Ronan, I'm going to the washroom. Just then, Rachel Kleina excused herself. This brought about many more questions. Did you see that? She looked nauseous when she left. Is she pregnant? Do you think the child is Ronan Simpson's? That's nonsense. Of course, it is. Could it be yours? But I heard Ronan saying that they weren't planning on having kids for the next 3 years. Perhaps she isn't pregnant then. Maybe she just had too much to eat. Rachel Kleina might have gone to the washroom, but Ronan Simpson was still around. He heard every word that his guests were saying, and each was like a stab to his heart. Finn Taylor, I want you to apologize for spouting nonsense. Nonsense? What did I say? Earlier, Finn Taylor had to resist the urge to punch the other when he had talked about Yvette Larson. But now that others were talking about his wife, he couldn't take it. Yet, this was only the beginning. It was only wise to keep one's enemies close. Before coming for the wedding, Finn Taylor had already instructed Hunter Sullivan to investigate the couple. Hence, the former already had everything he could possibly know about them ever since they were in middle school. The information came as a shock. Initially, Finn Taylor hadn't intended on doing anything with the information. After all, it had nothing to do with him. However, Ronan Simpson had provoked him. The latter wasn't one to take bullying lying down. Finn Taylor, I want you to apologize for smearing our names. If you don't apologize, I'll get my lawyer to send you a letter. I'll sue you and make sure you get executed. Finn Taylor chuckled. Are you sure you want me to talk about your wife? The gaze of the other man darkened. Go ahead, let's hear what you have to say. Ronan Simpson didn't believe a word Finn Taylor was saying. What would a piece of trash like him know? How dare he act as though he's so smart? Let's see what kind of story he'll come up with. If he can't say anything, I'll use this to demand compensation from them. Isn't your family rich anyway? Don't you stay at number 1 Pacific Heights? Great, I'll make your family pay me in the millions, if not $1 billion. Otherwise, I'll make sure you go to jail. Let's see what you'll do then, Finn Taylor. I wonder if you would spend $1 billion for Yvette Larson's sake. Rumor has it that your relationship has improved and that you guys are loving, but I'm not buying that. Loving? Love only comes when you have the right background. Do you guys even match each other? You two are worlds apart. And do you know what will result from that? There's only one outcome: nobody will care about you even if you die. They say that your wife is pregnant. Finn Taylor pointed at the other guests. My wife isn't pregnant, and so what if she is? She's already married. Yes, it's true that she's already married. It's fine for her to be pregnant, but have you ever thought about who the child's father is? Ronan Simpson picked up the wine bottle, about to smash it against Finn Taylor's head. Finn Taylor, you better watch your words. Who else could be the father of my child? Finn Taylor smiled and took out a photo. In the photo, everyone could clearly see Rachel Kleina holding onto the arm of another man as they shopped. Do you recognize this man? Don't tell me that you're the man in the photo. Ronan Simpson was stumped. The whole venue erupted into an uproar. That doesn't look like Ronan Simpson. What do you mean it doesn't look like him? It isn't him. Do you mean that Rachel Kleina cheated on him? Haha, I can't be too sure about that. Every word was like a knife to his heart. Finn Taylor, he is Rachel's relative. Although Ronan Simpson didn't recognize that man, he could only grit his teeth and swallow the injustice for now. He couldn't possibly admit to his wife's infidelity in front of all his friends and family. Oh, a relative. Finn Taylor smiled and took out another photo. Relative. They were sleeping on the same bed though. The photo in Finn Taylor's hand depicted Rachel Kleina in bed with that man. Ronan Simpson wanted to punch the other man, but he couldn't. He had to follow through with his lie. You're overthinking it. Maybe they were tired and sat on the bed. It was cold that day, and that's why they covered themselves with the quilt. I was there too. Ronan Simpson looked expectantly at the other, seeing if he had more evidence. He had already brought himself into the picture just to complete the lie. To be honest, Finn Taylor had to give it up to Ronan Simpson for giving up his own dignity to help his wife. However, one eventually had to pay for their mistakes, and this was but the beginning for the latter. Ronan, oh Ronan, I really admire you. How do you explain this then? Finn Taylor took out 3 photos at once. The first was of Rachel Klein heading to the hospital for a checkup with that man. The second was a checkup that showed the child was healthy. The last was the expected delivery date of the child. From the expected delivery date, I guess that she got pregnant in October. If I'm not wrong, you were overseas at that time. Ronan Simpson couldn't rebut the other. What else could he say to convince everyone? Oh, right, if you think that it's over, this is only the beginning. Here's the record of your wife's abortions. She had 1 in the first year of high school, the 3rd year of high school, the 1st year of college, the 2nd, the 4th, and 2 years after graduation. She's had 6 in total. I think you only got to know her in the 3rd year after her graduation, right? I guess she got tired of fooling around and wanted to get married. Although you don't earn much, you're not that bad. Oh yes, your wife's graduation certificate is also fake by the way. She didn't graduate from a renowned college but a technical one. Fake, fake, everything is fake. That was the only word in Ronan Simpson's mind. Just then, his wife returned. She was still unaware of the situation, and Yvette Larson turned to her. Rachel, I heard that you graduated from one of the top colleges in the country. Can you help me search for information on the internet? Without any hesitation, she replied, what internet are you talking about? Great, this just proves that whatever Finn Taylor said earlier was right. How could you not know about the internet if you're a graduate? You should know it like the back of your hand. It should be the most important thing while writing your thesis. How could you forget about something like that? Bitch, you bitch, slap. Ronan Simpson slapped his wife's face viciously. The latter was still in a daze. Even up until now, she still had no idea what had happened. I just went to the washroom, and now, I'm being insulted. Tell me what your highest educational qualifications are. How many times have you gotten abortions? Whose child are you carrying now? Rachel Klein fell onto the ground, yet nobody stepped forward to help her. Nobody cared for someone as shameless as her. Ronan Simpson, stop scolding Rachel Klein like you're a good person. Finn Taylor scoffed before taking a photo out. It was one of Ronan Simpson touching his secretary in the office. Did you think that nobody would find out about your affair with your secretary? Both of you are scum, neither is better than the other. Ronan Simpson had put on an air of superiority up until a moment earlier, but there was nothing he could say now. Right then, his phone rang. Ronan Simpson, I'm officially informing you that you've been fired. He was left in a daze. It was a call from his boss. Why have I suddenly been fired? Boss, why am I being fired? What, did you think we'd never find out about your embezzlement? We're conducting our investigations now. You can wait to be sued. Ronan Simpson crumbled onto the ground. Wait for next part.